Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Can anybody hear me in the chat? Push one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see if anybody can hear me. Sole provider, thank you for the confirmation. Jordan Bevel, what's going on? Aqua Techie, what's going on? Toot Riv 211, what's going on? Yeah, it's always an adventure to get these live streams started because I have to go through multiple steps, and I've talked about this before. Until my new Windows tablet comes, this will be the position we take for the foreseeable future. So, but thank you for the confirmation, and welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 299, Space and Technology. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those on the community tab that we post every week. And if you want to get on the panel, there's a link in the chat. You're welcome to join the panel and just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you so we can advance you to the panel. We got 11 people watching and just about 8 likes. Please hit the like button if you're not going to participate in the chat. All right. Give me a few seconds and let me share my screen and then we can get started, man. It's going to be a short hangout. I know it's Labor Day and a lot of people are probably not online. And if they are online, they're probably on some other panel, on somebody else's channel, where they should not be, wasting their time when they could be soaking up game over here. We did a Monday motivation live stream probably about a week and a half or so ago. If you don't subscribe, you don't eat. That's how we rolling over here. We're not going to be featured on anybody's panel going forward after August 1st. And we are just going to keep, doing what we do best instead of waiting on other people to really get on the bandwagon or get on board, because we can't afford to be waiting around for people who want to sit on different panels talking about, same-sex relations and stuff like that, gender relations, and just wasteful Sundays and wasteful Mondays, live streams going on for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours about unproductive things when we could be over here chopping up some real game. That's how we see it, and why we even started this platform, because we wanted to get away from all that stuff. And I see that certain content creators are being dismantled right now, being emasculated and destroyed, having a humanity trampled on. It's a shame, but if you subscribe to us, you wouldn't have to go through that, because we don't do that over here. $15 people watching and only 8 likes. Just hit the like button if you're not going to participate in the chat. Hey, Julian M, what's going on? Lance Powell, what's going on? All right, let me get started, man, because I don't want to waste any more time. All right, share my screen real quick. Actually, let me drop the link in there again in case anybody wants to join the panel. All right, first item on the docket is from africanews.com, or yeah, .com. Rwandans switching from petrol to electric motorcycles. This should be interesting. Transport e-mobility may be a global multi-billion-dollar business here, but here in Rwanda, it's a relatively new idea. However, following the introduction of a new e-mobility policy and a call from President Paul Kagame to speed up the process, manufacturers are becoming more enthusiastic about the potential. Electric vehicle company Ampersand has been in the e-mobility market for 4 years and is now helping Rwanda shift from gas-driven motorbikes to electric motorcycles. In a pilot program targeting motorcycle taxi drivers, it produced 10 e-bikes for tests and is now selling them. We've been developing these vehicles for about 4 years now and making them so that they are better and cheaper than the petrol motorcycles that are available on the road in Rwanda. That's been our goal all along, says Chief Executive of Ampersand, Josh Well. Ampersand is banking on the government support to make these affordable and a viable business and has set itself a target to put out 3 million electric motorcycles in the East African region. The suppliers that we work with on the components for our vehicles are very large, and we could potentially replace all the vehicles in Rwanda within a month. So production capacity is not the issue. The issue is financing and working out the best mechanism to get motorcycles into drivers' hands, and that's good for the driver and good for the country and good for us as a business, says Whale. Over 3 million people in East Africa make their living as motorcycle taxi drivers. James Musisi has been a motorcycle taxi driver in Kigali for 9 years and switched to an e-motorcycle 7 months ago. He says he has been able to make profit from the new electric motorcycle than a regular bike. Before using it, I was using ordinary bike, which was fuelless, and per day I usually get 15,000 Rwandan francs or 16,000 per day. For this one, I get 20,000 per day, and above 20,000 a day, 26,000. Wow. He also says using electric bike as opposed to a fuel bike has improved his respiratory health. The cost of buying an electric motorcycle ranges from $1,330 and $1,600 US. Ampersand has received 2,500 requests from potential rental and sales clients, with 500 of them recorded in the 2 days after the president's commitment to e-mobility financing and support. Kolitha Rahamia is Director General of Rwanda Environment Management Authority, and says the government is working hard to promote green mobility. We have recently introduced are working on e-mobility policy to see what are the quick measures that can be implemented. But currently, we have promoted e-mobility in terms of motorcycles because motorcycle is a big transportation system in the country, and we realize that the one they are the one that mostly contribute to air emission or air pollution in the transportation sector. 2012 research conducted in Rwanda revealed at least 2,227 deaths that year resulted from air pollution, and that poor quality of air has also increased numbers of respiratory diseases. Since then, Rwanda has put an air quality monitoring system in place which helps collect current data and finds ways in which the government can intervene. From 2015, Rwanda passed bylaws in accordance with the 2011 East Africa Community resolve to import only low sulfur fuel, cleaner fuel, to avoid sulfur oxides, which cause respiratory diseases. Commercial vehicles now undergo a gas emissions twice a year, while tests on personal vehicles will be conducted once a year. The e-mobility policy is part of Rwanda's commitment to address the issue of transport-related pollution and move towards green mobility. This is really good, and the reason being is we've talked about micro transportation here on this channel. We did a whole live stream about this months ago, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, with Complex and myself, and we talked about these e-scooters and other forms of micro transportation, such as electric bikes. You know, your regular bikes with battery packs and electric motors on them. We've talked about this being the future going forward. This is a very profitable market. Bird Scooters is valued or has a market valuation of $2 billion, and it only started in 2017, September 2017, as a startup. This is a booming market. So we've talked about this before, and I think it's important that we still continue to have these discussions because these are opportunities that we could be getting ourselves into. We could dominate these markets. All right, let me stop sharing. I don't think that video is working. But this is the stuff that we've been talking about getting ourselves into. Complex Design has been involved in this market for a few years now. So he's been very much ahead of the curve in terms of where this needs to go. So if you want to get into these sort of discussions, man, you should actually join these panels. And if you don't want to join, you can always email us. Our moderators will be in contact with you, or you can leave your comments at the end of the video, drop your email in there, something. We have to have these conversations because these are viable markets, multi-billion-dollar markets. So when you hear us talk about the Black Brain Trust is doing things behind the scenes that are, getting involved in industries that are multi-billion-dollar industries, this is what we were talking about, or one of the things that we were talking about. Rain and Woman, good evening to you. Willie Little John, what's going on? Information Man, Information Show. Yo, shout out to Information Man. I want you all to understand that Information Man was gracious enough to bring us onto his panel and create the Black Brain Trust logo as you see it. So there's people who help get this platform and this group together, this think tank together, that you don't necessarily see all the time, like Young Grizzly, who came up with the name, Information Man, who helped create the logo without us even asking for it. He did it out of his own goodness of his own heart. There's so many people who have contributed that you don't see on a regular basis that should be given praise. So peace to you, brother, Information Man. Trey Waters, what's going on? Mike Hamilton, I like the name. What's going on, Mike? Green Machine, what's going on? Ty City, what's going on? There's a link in the chat if you want to join, or if you just want to follow along, that's fine too. All right, this one is from fastcompany.com. The problem with autonomous cars that no one's talking about. I'm not sure if we read this one already. On a recent research trip, I found myself in the back of a taxi in. Oh yeah, we went over this already. So I'm not gonna read this. All right, this one is for KnoxNews.com. These Tennessee middle school students built a satellite in 2020. It'll be sent to space. When senior Veda CA or CL goes off to college next year, she'll leave a little of herself behind in Oak Ridge, and she'll have a little of herself launched into space. Vita, 17, a senior at Oak Ridge High School, was one of the first students at Oak Ridge's Robertsville Middle School to work on researching and building a satellite with STEM teacher Todd Livesey's class. Last month, students learned from NASA that their creation, named Ramsat after the middle school's mascot, will be launched in October 2020 aboard the NG-14 commercial resupply services mission to the International Space Station. It's surreal, Arvita said. I did that. I started that. I'm in awe of it, honestly. 4 years ago, Livesey first got the opportunity to bring a space project to school. Livesey had previously talked to NASA scientist Dr. Patrick Hall, an Oak Ridge native and a personal friend, about their mutual desire to have a space-related STEM project for students. But Livesey said, I didn't have any time in the school schedule. That changed in the summer of 2015 when the school gained an eighth period for the upcoming school year, and Livesey was asked to teach an enrichment class. Livesey visited the hall at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, who showed him a 10 centimeter cube satellite his team there was working on, and some of the challenges they faced with the design, including powering it with solar panels and creating a door that could automatically in space to deploy objects. Interesting. Livesey came back with a challenge for students, and it turned out for the community. That first group of students in the fall of 2015 focused on researching and developing a prototype, a foundation year, Vita said. We did hours of research every day, said Jackson Adams, now 16 and a junior at Oak Ridge High. We eventually got to building, but it took a lot of research. Jackson and Vita remember thinking about the project constantly, even dreaming about solutions to problems they came across in their research. Now, no longer middle school students, they are still involved. One day a week, current and former students meet after school for the project. Ultimately, the students' research led them to put the satellite into a oblong frame, not not the 10 centimeter cube they originally planned. We needed more space for solar panels to power the inside, including a transmitter and a camera, said Aiden Hillard, now 16. I guess the black boy's name is Emmett Lee. As the project grew in sophistication, older students mentored young ones, and mentors from the community also came on board. Holy Cross, a supervisor for career readiness and communications for Oak Ridge schools, said as many as 100 adults have likely volunteered time or donated money or other resources, but 6 adults come on regular basis to work with the students. Peter Thornton is one. Thornton came on board early because of his experience writing proposals for NASA. The students had to come up with a working proposal to present. Thornton's work as a research and development scientist in the Environmental Science Division of Oak Ridge National Laboratory has to do with developing computer models to predict future climate change. Every year, we learn something new from the students who have been doing their research, something we didn't know about. For example, orbital mechanics, Thornton said, it's a huge learning experience for everyone. It's exciting to be engaged with a bunch of students who are really excited from the project. Now, 4 years and many models into the project, students have realized the components to build the satellite, all commercially ready, flight tested parts. They've presented to local scientists and twice to NASA at Marshall Space Flight Center, who decided the project was feasible and had educational merit. And last year, Hudson Reynolds, Adler uh, Keene, and Eli Underwood, now all high school freshmen, came up with what ultimately will be the satellite's mission, taking photos from space of Gatlinburg to measure regrowth of vegetation after the 2016 wildfires. That requires students to do more research to learn how to read infrared camera pictures taken from space. It also required more research on the best way and most cost-effective way to power the satellite, lithium batteries recharged by solar panels. We have a lot of things that take up a lot of energy, said eighth grader Natalie Viscanera, 13. Interesting. This year, a local ham radio club has developed a way for the students to transmit and test signals from the satellite in the room. The satellite itself is built from commercially available parts, including the 2U frame, flight computer, power control board, flight battery, solar panels, flight VHF, UHF, radio, and antennas, flight cameras, sun sensor electronics, and attitude determination and control system. It should be altitude. Students who have a budget will likely make the ballast a piece of machine aluminum to give the satellite extra weight and extend its mission to 2 years. Satellites can explain in detail the mechanics of each part. Sorry. Students can explain in detail the mechanics of each part, what it does, how it works, and why it was chosen. As a group, we're really smart, said Sam Levisay, 15, now a sophomore. We now all we know all of this information. Nothing about the satellite itself or the technology it will use to measure vegetation regrowth is groundbreaking, said Levisay, now in his 36th year of teaching. But for the kids to do it, it's new to them, he said. And it's very good, new technology. For them to figure out the design process and see it through, that's big for middle school kids, even high school or college kids. Leaders say has seen the project giving students a purpose and a boost in confidence as they learn about the opportunities they might not might not have known existed through the project and the annual trip to Huntsville. I've heard several of them say, I want to work for NASA, which I don't think that would have been something on their radar, Lever State said. It's just not around here. He and Cross are developing a middle school curriculum based on the project to share with other educators. It will likely be available for download, Cross said. So this is we did a whole hangout on this before. We did a whole what's going on with this? All right. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Zoom. Why it does this on Chrome? It seems to log off and log back on. Anyways, we did a hangout on this months ago about Q-based satellites in space, and that the viability of this and what kind of market it is and how cost effective and cost efficient it can be to get into space development and space exploration. So we did a whole entire live stream on this months ago. But what we're seeing now is that everybody's getting on board with this, except for most Black Americans. So and you see this young black boy here was one of the contributors to the project. Hey, what's going on, Ty City? What's going on, Rain and Woman?
Peace, fam.
I'm chilling, man, chilling. You have anything you want to add to this discussion?
You know what, man? This right here, this is dope, bro. This is dope, dog. This ain't high school. They talking middle school students.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
We didn't have any of this in middle school.
yo, we didn't we didn't even have a room, an extra room to do stuff like this at my middle school.
Right.
Man, just to like be having this much of a head start and have that on your resume before you even get before you even get to college. Like, I worked on this project.
Right. Right. And it's well known, right? So what happens here is they usually get walked into their careers into places like NASA and Boeing, um, Lockheed Martin, those big SpaceX. SpaceX does a lot of recruiting of young people, so that's
Yeah, man. And I was having this discussion with somebody about how the colleges are going to be gone. Like, it's no need to even like like you're going to need to know everything you need to know.
hmm
You have to be groomed into these new industries that's coming up. They don't even have time for college no more. I think that's a testament of how fast the technology is going.
right, right. It can only go as fast as the medium that it travels on. So if you're talking about like when we was in school, you and I was in school, man, there was no real internet and stuff like that, no laptops stuff like that. Now every kid has a tablet, every kid has a MacBook Air, they have an iPad, some form of computing system that's going to allow them to get real time access to information. We didn't have this before. You had to open up a book if you even had one.
Yeah, man. I'm reading this and I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's middle school. I'm thinking high school still. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, they got incubator programs like this going on in middle school.
hmm hmm
It's dope. We was just talking about how nuclear power wasn't going anywhere, and that we would probably have to get rid of the nuclear waste. We'll have to go into space somewhere.
Right, right. That's actually a good point too, because this is the beginning of it. You know, Q-based satellite is about the size of an iPhone. So you think about the size of the satellite, the weight of it, and the ability to deploy it. NASA is going to deploy it for them, so they don't even have to pay for it. So this is going to happen next year. This is the mentality, and this is what most people's kids are going to have to go up against. They're not playing games. But we read an article over the weekend where you had the girls that came from the Ghanaian school out of Ghana came over here and dominated the whole entire robotics competition.
Yeah, but look at this, Mike.
Mhm.
You do something like this in middle school, right? And the project is ongoing, and you always have something that you could, like, if you told somebody to don't look at my resume, check out this project. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've already uh you've already put your stake in the ground.
Right. Right. Yeah, this is definitely dope, man. I wish more black schools had this sort of thing, because you would probably see a lot more different talent come out of it.
Um, may I interject?
Go right ahead.
Salute to everyone on the panel and to the chat room. I'd just like to also add that this also shows already a degree of focus, a degree of discipline, and a degree of teamwork. With those social skills and those leadership skills, along with the ability to build and work on these kind of projects, these are real game changers for this youth. Real game changers for the future. And it really goes to show too how really when we expose our youth to the possibilities for them, they really are unlimited.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think you would probably see places like Chicago, Baltimore turn around if they had more programs like this overnight. I mean, they've been working on this for 4 years. So you imagine if that was offered to those other predominantly black schools, they would be doing something very similar, and you would get different results. But obviously, there's an agenda to keep those schools the way that they are in order to increase what is known as the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Even with the schools, how they set up now, I remember when I first started tipping into this space and I started hearing people say STEM, 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 STEM.
Hmm.
It took a while for it to sink into me, like, okay, STEM, STEM, STEM. These are the same things, same industries but it's not. You know what I'm saying? When what I thought I knew was STEM is it's all outdated. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think this new version of STEM, we haven't even conceptualized it within our communities.
Right. Right. Because this is all very foreign. It's moving so fast that they can't really articulate what it is that's happening in front of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is very much different. Now you're talking about putting kids on the trajectory of space exploration. This is in the black community. You don't even have a set of binoculars, let alone a telescope.
Real talk.
Right.
Real talk. But that's what I'm saying, Mike. If you just take a step back and look at it,
Hmm.
it took years and years and years for us as humans to get things into space. Now we have people doing this before they even reach puberty.
Right. Right. I've um I've looked into the Maker Lab training, so I'm going to be taking that probably next year. I already missed the date for the next go around. I think it's for September, so I'll miss that. But I'll definitely be looking into it next year. Doing the training, it's like a 2 or 3 day training, and probably opening my own maker lab based on space exploration. So these are an autonomous vehicles. So these are the type of things that we're going to be getting ourselves into the coming year. A lot of these other hangouts, man, going around and talking about men sleeping with other men and all this other stuff. Just all types of just effery that should not be discussed, man. Got
Yeah, real talk, man.
Yeah, got other hangouts, man, going for 13 hours talking about the same old thing that happened yesterday.
You know what I'm saying? And we looking at children sending things into space.
Right. And they want to blame white supremacy. You can't blame that on white supremacy, man.
Nah, not at all, man.
Mm-mm.
Well, of
Not at
course
all.
you can.
Really?
You know they have the foot on your neck.
Mm.
I'm
That's probably why I
sorry.
keep
I did
forgetting.
not mean to say that. Let me go back on mute. Mike.
Hey, Mike, you know what? I got money that I purposely set aside,
Mhm.
and I actually talked to people, you know what I'm saying, who are in the trucking industry because I wanted to open up a diesel repair center.
Mhm.
And now, you know what I'm saying, my horizons have been spread open. It's like I can't pass a diesel repair company down to my son. Like diesel's finna be done by the time he even touch 18. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the French are saying 2022 is the end of diesel for their country.
So now I'm looking into how can I get into the autonomous stuff early. You know what I'm saying? Because I know they're gonna have to have service stations and diagnostic ports and things of that nature. That's what I'm trying to get in front of. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm looking to invest in now. Like my whole outlook changed in the last 6 months.
Yeah. So the way autonomous vehicles will be serviced is that they'll be electric, right? If they're EV, then they don't need oil changes, right? What they're going to need is a software update. They're going to push that.
Exactly.
They're going to push that over the air in the same way you get an update for your iPhone or your Android phone, and then it kind of updates on the fly. But the car has to be sitting still in order to get the update, because you can't update while it's driving. So that's one area. The other area is going to be charging infrastructure. The ability to have an old gas station converted over, have the guts ripped out of it, and then plant all of these charging stations inside that lot. 8, 9, 10 charging stations that allows for fast charging at 220 volts, right? So 220 volts would give you um, a fast charge of like 6 hours, right? So it'll probably take like 4 to 6 hours to charge. 440 volts would give you a charge, a car a full charge in probably about 30 minutes. So
So you probably would even not even need a full charge.
you may
That's
not. Most
that's
cars,
if you wanted a full charge, right?
as if you wanted one, right? So the way how you would look at this is that, okay, so we allow such and such person to have a membership with Ty's EV center. They pull up, they charge their vehicle, but what they doing in the meanwhile? Well, we're gonna accommodate them with a nice big screen TV with Netflix and coffee and bagels and coffee and donuts and stuff like that, all served to them as a part of their membership.
But you know what I think though, Mike? I think it's gonna be something like a quick change battery, where the battery will already be charged, and then it'll be like some kind of setup where it just swap the whole battery.
Well, the batteries are fitted into the chassis. You know that, right?
But that's what I'm saying. That's what we know it as now.
Because if you look at Rich Rides, I think that's his name, man. He's from Boston, but he's the brother who does the Tesla swaps. He gets all his
Oh,
Teslas.
okay, yeah. He
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
was he did he do he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, I think,
He
right?
has his own show on CNBC now. I think he quit his job, man. And they basically created a whole entire show for him because he quit his job to open up a Tesla garage. So he's doing
Yo,
exactly what you're talking about. I want to get him onto the Black Brain Trust, man, but I got to figure out a time when it's convenient for him. So
Yo, that dude, man. And you know what? Are you familiar with the channel Now You Know?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so you know my disposition with autonomous vehicles, right?
Hmm.
I just went deep into that channel last night, and the industries that are fighting against the electric companies, you
Go ahead.
probably already know.
Big order.
And the stock market manipulations and things that they do in the short, the Tesla stocks and stuff like that,
Hmm.
it's like a real movement to suppress this stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No different than when TVs came about, man. The radio industry wanted to suppress TV broadcasting and cable TV and so on and so forth.
Or, yo,
Newspapers. Newspapers wanted to do the same thing.
I had no idea, man.
Yeah, that's the industry, man. Rich is the first out of the gate, man, to do it. And he's a
Man,
brother.
he was talking about how hard it was to get through to some of the programming and reverse engineering the Tesla stuff. Like they didn't want to help him at all.
Oh yeah, they don't want to help him because it's closed source, but that's not even his skill set. So you imagine if that was his dedicated skill set, that's what he would be doing. I think he does IT or something like that as a living, but um, that what you're talking about doing, Rich is doing right now.
Wow, man.
Let me get to this next article. We can chop up game at the end of this. Um, all right, this one's from BigThink.com. Space hotel with artificial gravity will be in orbit by 2025. Oh, let me bring my brother Paul up in here. If earthly destinations are not enough to quench your wanderlust, a trip to a space hotel might get on your radar within the next few years. The designer of the Von Braun space station revealed numerous plans that detail the construction of a veritable resort in space. Built by the Gateway Foundation, the world's first space hotel will have gravity, bars, inviting interiors, and full-fledged kitchens. They plan to have the station visited by about 100 tourists per week by 2025. The designer of the project, Tim Alator, wants to make traveling to space commonplace. Eventually, going to space will just be another option people will pick for their vacation, just like going on a cruise or going to Disney World, Alator revealed. He thinks that while initially space travel will be the domain of the uber wealthy, soon enough it will be available to regular folks. The space station will utilize existing tech used at the International Space Station, but will differ in one crucial aspect. The hotel will have artificial gravity, making long term stay much more manageable. The designer thinks gravity, about a sixth of Earth's, will add a sense of direction and orientation that isn't present in the ISS. You'll be able to go to a toilet, shower, or eat food the way you are used to. Hey, Ty City, can you mute up, please? The ideas for the station were taken from none other than Werner von Braun, hence his name. If you recall, Werner von Braun was a top Nazi rocket scientist who developed the infamous V 2 rocket. After the war, he was taken in by NASA and became a famous American scientist. The hotel will be a part of his complex legacy. Interesting, man, that they only refer to him as a Nazi scientist, and then when he comes to the United States, he's an American scientist. He's not a Yank or anything like that. I'm not gonna read any more of this, but the pictures kind of speak for itself, man. This is
That
one of
would that he was probably part of the Operation Paperclip.
I think Paul Bryant might know more about that. What's going on, Paul Bryant?
Hey, bro. How are you? Hey, Ty City. How are you?
Guten Tag, guten Tag.
I was so what's up?
Guten Tag. Werner von Braun was the leading rocket scientist in Nazi Germany. He was a part of Operation Paperclip. And when the U.S. and Russia split up, the German scientists who were under von Braun's control, the Russians took half. America, the Russians took half. America took the other half. So Werner Braun, Werner von Braun created NASA. He didn't work there. He was the first director. He created NASA. Okay, so when they say, as you said, oh, he was a Nazi, he was taken in, then he was a prominent scientist. No, he was the director of NASA. He created NASA. Mike, 7 months ago, I know I sent you an email through the email chain. Werner von Braun made a video in the 1950s detailing his plan for a space station in orbit, which is where this plan comes from. His plan was to have people be able to take rockets back and forth to that station, initially for scientific exploration and eventually to the general public. His plan was to have several of these stations in orbit. He also had some other plans, such as a giant solar panel ring in orbit around the entire planet, broadcasting energy wirelessly back down to the planet. But I digress. So I find it rather interesting the rate at which this technology is now moving,
Mhm.
and where I really want to go with this is a lot of this tech is already here. Some of it is in R&D, some of it is just being hidden, you
Mhm.
know. So I find that rather amazing. You know, you see what President Trump's announcement last week about the Space Force. You know,
Mhm.
you don't create an entirely brand new branch of the military unless you have personnel and equipment ready to go.
Mhm.
With all of that said, um, I know that Black people are amazingly in America are amazingly resistant to change and new technology. This is the future. So
Mhm.
while the majority of Black people are they have their blinders on and they're only focused on what's right in front of their face, the world and technology is literally changing all around them. So I'm just going to finish and say that I find this article amazing, and it's all about technology, and I love emerging technology.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, they're talking 2025. You got, you know, eighth graders, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders working on satellites. I don't know what to say. The writing's on the wall for a lot of cats that want to doubt. Yo, I don't think there will be space travel. Is there even such thing as space? Is the vacuum of space? You know, these people, man, the flat earthers. They come to this channel. They talk about how flat the Earth is. I could walk from New York to California and without falling off into the ocean in the Pacific. You go ahead and do that. You go ahead and do that.
You know, I'll say this. You know what? Throughout history, whenever whenever people choose to focus on what's right in front of their face, other
Mhm.
people who were at the bleeding edge
Mhm.
leave them behind, and they stay right in the dust. So for every Black American person who says they doubt space technology, they don't believe Black people should be in space, there's no part for us, should we even be up there?
Mhm.
You, you know what? You know what? 10, 10 to 15 years from now,
Mhm.
when Brother Mike V and I and others are, talking to you from space stations or from the moon or from Mars, what is going to be your response then? That's what I want to know. But honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. But whatever.
Yeah, this is where you're. I mean, I don't know how old Ty's son is, but
Well, man,
Ty, your son's what, 3?
yeah, he'll be 3 in 2 weeks.
Oh man, see, and you think about 18 years from now, which would be what?
21.
Yeah,
I'm saying years wise, what that'd be 2033.
yeah, right around there.
Yeah, so they're talking space trips to to the space station as a tourist destination by 2025. By the time your son graduates from high school, may not, if you get him acclimated enough and he goes to one of those schools like we read, where that black boy was, he'll be so far ahead of the game.
Yeah,
College won't even be a concept. He'll just go straight into SpaceX or even another startup. Some of these other startups, these 3D printed rocket startups. I forget the name of it that Complex raves about. But the point that I'm making here is that mindset is going to be there, and it's going to be, right on the money. Bang, 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 bang. Bill Gates dropped out of college when he was building Microsoft. Quite a few other Silicon Valley vets, they either stopped going to school or they didn't go to school at all.
well, that's what I'm saying, Mike. You get a kid who was part of a project like this. Like, what field do you push them into right now? You know what I'm saying? That those children are going to be in fields that we are just scratching the surface of right now.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be the globetrotters of that industry. They'll be spinning balls on their fingers like it's nothing. Spinning ideas right up off the top of their heads.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation the other day with a brother at the supermarket, and he was saying, he saw me out there working out. I was getting my jog on, and he said, would I be able to train his son? I said, train your son in what? He said he wants to go into football. I said, football? This ain't the time to be going into football, man. This is the time to teach your son into a boot camp and start teaching him how to write code.
Yo, don't even get me started, bro. Don't even get me. Don't get me started, fam.
I ran the numbers down to him. There's only 600 slots in the NBA. One chance out of 600 opportunities to get into the league. That's not even guaranteed. And now you're talking. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what, Mike? You a hater, man.
How?
He's not a hater. He is a realist. He's an absolute bottom ground realist. For every person who says, you're trying to crush my dreams. You know what? Take your dreams, put it under a microscope, and compare it to the facts on the ground. This is the future. This is reality.
You don't know what his kid could be. Oh, but you know what? I was just, man, trust me, my eyes just got open recently. They was just saying how the kids are looking at these gamers as athletes.
Well, they've always been. I think it's called the Professional Gamers League, PGL. I think it's been like that since I was into computer gaming. I used to be a first-person shooter. I used to be a part of a couple of teams online back in the 90s, late 90s and early 2000s for Quake.
Yeah, but it was talking about how these guys getting contracts and they getting like the notoriety of athletes.
Yeah, they're getting signed up big dollars, man. Commercial projects and stuff. John Carmack started all this stuff. John Carmack is the founder of all that stuff, man. He was the person behind Doom and Quake, which is what you have today. Which is where Call of Duty came from. Came from all of that stuff.
So you know what? Let me ask this question. Would you want to be the person who sits around all day playing video games, or the person who's making billions because you created that game? Or let me ask you this: do you want to be the person who signs $1 million contract as a pro athlete, or do you want to be the billionaire who is who is who is signing those checks?
Mhm.
No, for some reason, black people cannot get wrapped their head around. They only just want to go work somewhere. Give me the good job. Where's the good job? Where's the good job?
Mhm.
Refuse to elevate your thinking.
Well,
Absolutely.
let me say this, man, because I do think that PGL, Professional Gamers League, is actually a viable area if you have the mindset to do so, because you do get burned out from PC gaming, but like console gaming too.
Mhm.
But we read an article on the Pan African talk or Pan African chat where you had a 9-year-old Nigerian boy who that was Saturday. 9-year-old Nigerian boy who his father told him you should stop playing video games, go create your own, and that's exactly what he did. Now he's one of the top mobile gamers, mobile game developers in his age bracket, right out of Africa, right out of Nigeria. So well, I say all that to say this, that there's a avenue that is untapped, a multi-billion-dollar industry that is being untapped for a lot of these a lot of black people.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Hey, Raining Woman, could you send Dr. Phoenix drop the Zoom link in the chat? I think I dropped it in there earlier. Dr. Phoenix wants to get on.
I've got you.
Thank you. All right, this one is from Wired.com. China is quickly losing its position as the world's smartphone factory. For decades, China has been the world's electronics manufacturing hub, but not for much longer. Google is the latest company to shift some of its production out of China, with reports stating it will be building its new Pixel 4 smartphone in an old Nokia factory in Vietnam. It's the latest company to move manufacturing out of China into Vietnam, where the manufacturing of the computer, electronic, and optical products has increased by a third since 2010, and electrical equipment has risen 9% in the same time period. The news was first reported by Nikkei, or Nikkei. Fundamentally, the shift from China is a rebalancing of country risk, said smartphone analyst Horace Dedoux. China's dominance in production of consumer electronics, coupled with an authoritarian government, was never a stable arrangement. The political consequences are being felt in terms of a trade war, but it would have surfaced some other way eventually. Some movement was already happening before the current US-China tensions, but the tariff war has put more urgency on brands to diversify production. That movement was the natural warp and weft of international trade. From a supply chain perspective, things are never static, and this is not just limited to tech, says creative strategies smartphone analyst Carolina Milanesi. If you look at clothing, for instance, we have seen a similar move from China to Indonesia, and China benefited from a shift of electronics manufacturing from Japan in the early 2000s, which itself became the electronics manufacturing hub after taking business from South Korea. Companies' concerns when picking places to make their goods include the price of manufacturing those items, the time it would take for them to ship the finished products to market, and also the diversification of the locations. However, the reasons for this shift away from China isn't down to cost alone. Labor and manufacturing account for less than 2% of the cost of a phone, says the Dedu, how you want to pronounce it. The value of China has been the skill sets in manufacturing operations and in engineering talent and access to a network of suppliers that can act quickly and react to changing market conditions. Other fears include the risk of piracy or counterfeiting, which has been an issue in China. I do also wonder if the rise of local brands has put some pressure on capacity, says Milan Nisi. While suppliers running factories that serve multiple electronics vendors have generally managed to avoid wide-scale counterfeiting, for instance, Foxconn, which made Apple devices for years, kept a tight lid on its production. The rise of Chinese smartphone manufacturers makes the competitive market more difficult. Chinese factories could be diverted to produce phones for Chinese manufacturers. That's a very good point. The four largest Chinese smartphone makers, Huawei, Vivo, Oppo, and Xiaomi, account for around 85% of the smartphone shipments in the country, according to data from analyst Canalys. Also, China is the world's biggest smartphone market and has been since 2013. Its factories are meeting demand for their own consumers and have less time. And thanks to the bluster of Donald Trump, less inclination to meet the world's needs. As a result, smartphone manufacturers are moving production south to Vietnam. The shift has been taking place for a while. A number of Samsung smartphones purchased over the last few years already bear the text "Made in Vietnam" on their cover, where Samsung invested 1.8 billion euros into building a new factory in 2014. The South Korean smartphone company's last factory in China, in Huzhou, stopped recruiting new employees in February 2019 and has laid off half of its staff. Samsung is so big in Vietnam that one in every $4 of Vietnam's exports come from Samsung products. Wow. According to The Economist, Vietnam's labor force is half as expensive and even in 7 years younger on average than China's. Interesting. For those reasons, many manufacturers are making Vietnam their new home. LG made a similar move out of South Korea, where it based its production in April. Sony disappeared from Beijing in March, setting up shop in Thailand. Every phone manufacturer that moves their business to Vietnam makes it more attractive for others to follow. In many ways, it's due to the same reasons why China was attractive early on, says Dadon, what they do. The cost of labor as an anchor, plus the flexibility and skill sets. Vietnam has been slowly gaining the skills that's necessary. So they bring up some very interesting points. I didn't realize that China had such a declining population at this point. I thought that wasn't going to be for another 10 years or so. But from a manufacturing standpoint, this actually makes a lot of sense. If you're going to spin up a new factory, you can't shut down the current factory and retool it because it would take too much time. So it's better to create a new factory in a cheaper place and put the new tools in there and then start the production there and then close down the previous factory. So from a manufacturing standpoint, I guess that would make a lot of sense. But I would also think that most of your African countries have a vastly large demographic of millennials and zennials and have half the labor costs of a Chinese person. I shouldn't say a Chinese person, but Chinese and Vietnamese labor, mostly because of the amount of corruption in Africa. There's a lot of people building, there's a lot of people mining for diamonds and stuff like that aren't being paid as it is. So why wouldn't they move their factories there? Dr. Phoenix, what's going on? Albert Bird, what's going on?
How you doing?
Chill, man, chilling.
Good. How you doing? How you brothers doing tonight?
I'm chilling, man. If you have any ideas or input on some of the stuff that we discussed, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, actually, I did want to backtrack really quickly to the previous article. Um, one, Paul Bryan was absolutely correct with what he said about Warner von Braun, but just a quick note too was that the primary reason he was recruited by the U.S. government was because he designed the V2 rocket technology that essentially allowed Germany to bomb London from Berlin. Had the U.S. not intervened, the Germans would have wiped London off the map with their V2 rockets that they were launching from Berlin. Um, Two, I don't know if you remember a while ago, Mike, maybe about a month or so ago, we were having a conversation, and again, the topic came up about Black society being prepared for the fourth industrialized complex, and the current prediction in 2050 what the total Black wealth will be.
Hmm.
And I said in one of the comments I said was that at the current rate we're going, we won't have to wait to 2050 to find out. We'll have to wait in a decade. And that article said that by 2025, so
Hmm.
in less than a decade,
Hmm.
we're going to see these are things that we can expect to be seeing and happening within within these industries.
Hmm.
So again, I mean, as much as Black folks think we have the next half a century or third or the next 3 decades or so to try to get from this recalcitrant, stagnant position, I am a firm believer that we have less, we have more like a decade to really get it together.
I can't say I disagree at all. I think that's a very good point. Paul Bryan, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. The first thing I want to say that General Westmoreland is turning in his grave to see Vietnam on its feet and being a world leader in any area of economics and finance,
Hmm.
specifically technology. Specifically technology. I'm not surprised because you have been covering articles on Vietnam for most this year. So it's of interest to see the continuing advance.
Hmm.
Vietnam is really on it. They have really transformed their country, over the past 40 years, 45 years. They've
I mean,
really
and that's
transformed.
saying a lot given just how the U.S. practically destroyed Vietnam.
Yeah.
I think that's saying a lot.
Mhm.
Again, to this day, Vietnamese are still suffering the effects of Agent Orange. You still have, whole swaths of land within Vietnam that are still highly poisonous, to the natives.
Mhm.
So again, given that they've been able to do this turnaround in about 4 to 5 decades almost, I mean, I think it says a lot about the tenacity and the sheer will to survive of the people.
I would also throw North Korea in there as well. North Korea was bombed to back to the Stone Age, and
Oh yeah,
they've rebuilt their whole entire country from the ground up.
yeah, and
Out of pride.
yeah, no, and that's a great point. I mean, again, the U.S. gave the world the gift for the world's largest minefield that separates North and South Korea.
The
So
Wow.
DMZ, you're right. The
so
DMZ.
so again, these are this is just a testament to the resiliency of these people, and unfortunately, you know I kind of hate to be sort of a Debbie Downer, if you will. I wish Black people were far more resilient, or at least willing to understand what's happening in the global scheme of things.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I would actually say that Black people coming out of slavery were pretty resilient themselves to build Black Wall Street, right, in the HBCUs, right?
Yeah, brother, but look at the current state of the HBCUs now.
Right. That mindset is gone, bro. That
Yeah,
mindset is
I
gone.
The
mean,
mindset is
It
destroyed.
is. Bro. It is a minority. The mindset exists, but it is, excuse me, it is a minority of people amongst Black people who still think that way. Okay, the majority do not think that way.
you
They
know,
just don't.
yeah, HBCUs
Yeah, let's be honest.
have a massive problem attracting top tier talent to their schools, especially for their graduate programs. It's really your graduate and your doctoral programs that really make or break universities for the most part, because those are the folks that bring in the money. That's why they offer you. That's why they. That's why they give you stipends, and that's why PhD programs should be free and funded. So anybody doing a PhD program, you should never do one that isn't funded, because again, you make money for those schools. You bring prestige to those schools when you do research. You write papers. They're peer reviewed. They're published. So again, the HBCUs have a problem attracting top tier students, and I think a lot of that is certainly a reflection of this degradation of really Black intelligence and Black society over the last 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
Dr. Phoenix, I don't know how old you are, but I remember back in the 90s, man, it was the thing to rock an HBCU hoodie, even if you didn't go. Like, I remember that back in middle school, everybody had a HBCU hoodie. Some form of HBCU, they were rocking it. There was a sense of Black pride, man. People were rocking medallions and, kufis and stuff like that, man. And now it's tight jeans, sagging, Gucci flip-flops, Louis Vuitton belts, men sleeping with other men. I mean, just a whole litany of things, a chicanery, man, that came out of that stuff, man. I don't understand how we transition from supporting HBCUs to just, not even being able to get past third grade, man, in terms of reading comprehension.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
No, go. Okay.
No, I was gonna say I'm 34, but here's the thing. You said it when you was talking about the previous article, where you was in the store, you was at the grocery store or whatever, and the brother was talking about, trying to get his son into a football. And I said this before, again, we're going back to that whole Rich Paul incident about a month or so ago. The reason why they can do that, because they know there's not going to be a shortage of Black folks serving their children up to these athletic programs. It's much easier to be a buck on a plantation, or what you call one of these NCAA schools, or one of these athletic programs. Much easier to do that. First of all, we already know your Black college athletes, they just pass them. They give them some easy major like communications or English, and the professors pass them. Why? Because these students are bringing in so much money that they themselves will never be able to take advantage of.
What's worse than that, I've heard that from some players that they won't even allow them to get advanced science and technology degrees.
No, they don't, because
they're playing football.
Yeah, because the reason why they brought you there takes precedence over everything else. That's pretty common. So again, you see these 19, 20, 21-year-old college athletes, and they got brand new Dodge Chargers, but they can barely count or read. And again, there's no shortage of Black folks serving up their sons, especially to these schools and to these programs. Why? Because it's so much easier if you can see the bag. If the bag is just to hit the proverbial lottery of getting some multi-million-dollar contract from the NBA or the NFL, I mean, that's the bag. And most unfortunately in this day and age, most Black parents will much rather serve their sons up to these schools, knowing that these schools will ultimately victimize, run these kids into the ground. Even those kids that are top tier, they only got about a 5 or 10% chance of even that getting to these pro leagues.
Right. Now they got the big three and all these other, Chinese basketball league taking on these Black players too, like Stephon Marbury and whatnot. But
I don't know if you brothers remember earlier in the year, the NBA announced a plan with Barack Obama to go into Africa to start a league in the Africa.
I believe it.
I mean, if you guys Google this was something that was talked about, that was announced earlier in the year, that the NBA was teaming up with Barack Obama to go into Africa to start a basketball league. So again, this is just taking the physical attributes of Black males and you commoditize, you turn into a commodity. And meanwhile, the Black intelligence is being continuously eroded. And so what we're left with are basically a bunch of recalcitrant people who aren't even prepared to even survive in the 21st century.
But we still have our Black queens. They're so educated. Black queens.
Don't you start, brother. Don't you start. You get the video flag.
You didn't hear me the end of that, did you?
But it
Look,
comes
I'm not
down,
about
it
to
comes
go
back
there.
to
And, I
mindset.
mean, this is a. I'm not trying
Okay,
to.
I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet.
Everything
But I mean,
starts
these are
mindset,
important
bro.
conversations.
Until the mindset's changed, nothing else will change.
That's
So
true.
I remember exactly what Mike was talking about because I'm about 5 years older than Mike is. So everybody running around with the HBCU hoodies and the unks and the medallions, no gold chains, peace, my brother, and everything else. The thing with that is it was trendy, it was hip, it wasn't
Mhm.
cool. Unfortunately, there was no real substance to it. So as soon as it stopped being hip and stopped being cool, nothing came from it. So because there was no mindset that lent weight to it, to create something, to get mindsets changed, it stayed a trend. And once that trend cooled off, Black people moved away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what came in and really disrupted it. Because I remember distinctly, because even Spike Lee and Jordan had worked together on the commercial for promoting Jordans with the peace sign on it and the medallion and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, actually, I
Time
think
and money.
I think it was Jordan. It was again, Jordan was really one of the first athletes to start to bank these multi-million-dollar deals. And it began with him. And when he made that commonplace, then yeah, everybody was serving their sons up. But to go back to what you and Paul just said about the pride in going to HBCUs and wearing the hoodies, I remember that as a kid. And part of that was because a lot of people don't give this man credit, was Bill Cosby.
Yes,
He
it
had
is.
to show a different world in the early 90s.
Yep,
How
you're
many
absolutely right
times have
about that.
How many times have I talked about that, bro? Exactly right. And Bill Cosby got a lot of hate from Black people saying it's not real, it's not representative of Black America. What are you talking about? And Bill Cosby said, are you gonna sit there and effing tell me that there are not Black doctors and Black lawyers who send their kids to good schools? What
Oh,
is
there
the
are.
matter with you? What the F is the matter with you? See, so he was trying to change mindsets. And it is funny how people who looked like him gave him the most resistance and pushback for portraying the same exact positive images that they Black people claim that they want to see. So when a Black man did it, he got resistance from Black people. That's why I always say I don't take the majority of Black people seriously.
No, and Paul is absolutely correct. I mean, again, this man single-handedly was able to like triple the enrollment in HBCUs in the 90s with one show that didn't even run for nowhere near as long as the Cosby Show. I think
Yeah.
the Different World only ran for like what, 5 seasons or something like that.
It was
Something
5
like
seasons.
that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I was a kid at the time, but I'll never forget it. It made you have pride in wanting to go to an HBCU. It did attract the best and the brightest at that time. But
Mhm.
then what happened? I don't even know really what. I mean, outside of the Jordan effect in professional sports, I honestly don't know exactly what caused the shift per se, but clearly we see the effects of it to this day.
Plus, this doesn't help. I know I'm gonna mispronounce these shows' names, but it's on purpose. Lust and Hip Hop and Reasons Why Black Men Want to Stay Single from Atlanta. You got that going on now, so that's not helping any. I'm not saying it caused it, but that's not helping. It's not helping.
Mhm.
Again, I talked before about my, when I went to Atlanta last year. I think it's a great, if you're an academic, you're a Black person, you're about going to school, you're an academic, great place to be. If you're for the social life, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks are like, oh yeah, there's a lot of Black folks there, lots of opportunity for brothers looking, to find doable women. But I know there's some brothers that would disagree with that. But again, I kind of question the quality of the women you would find in that place, especially from what I've seen.
But those shows are a reflection of reality. I understand that, it's TV and
Fortunately,
it's stylized, but when you go to a Black area, those mindsets and those people who do those things, that's what you see. It's not a caricature. That is a reflection of Black society in the majority. And for some reason, you have your pro-Black people who say that's not real. It's fake.
Entertainment.
Images. No, that's the truth. You see, a lot of people live in a bubble, and that bubble centers around their agenda and their narrative. Those shows reflect the majority of Black society in America. And until those mindsets change, that majority will do nothing.
I mean, I wouldn't, I
Good
would
luck.
wholeheartedly agree with that.
All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from disruptafrica.com. 4 African tech startups join Merck, make IT in Africa Accelerator program. The program, run by Merck Accelerator in partnership with Make IT in Africa and Hyber, is aimed at startups working towards the SDGs by applying cutting-edge technologies to solve real-life problems in areas such as healthcare, life sciences, and performance materials. Dr. Phoenix has talked about healthcare being one of the growing startup sectors. 19 founders from Egypt, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, Tanzania, Tunisia, and Uganda joined a week-long boot camp program in Nairobi last month, which featured interactive classroom training, workout sessions, scale-up diagnostics, and design for scale training. The final day of the program saw founders pitch for a place in the main program, with 4 selected. They are South African startup Akili Labs, which designs modular connected smart point of care molecular diagnostic systems. Kenya's Blue Wave Insurance, which makes insurance more accessible and available for low-income earners. Nigeria's Check It, which designs anti-counterfeit solutions for the food and drug supply chain. And Tunisia's Epilert, which has built a wearable bracelet with integrated biosensors. These 4 startups will now have the chance to explore potential collaboration opportunities with Merck and have the chance to scale their business through training, access to corporate partners, and the chance to showcase their solutions at Merck in South Africa and exhibitions at the South African Innovation Summit in Medica Trade Fair. This is something to actually pay attention to, because we talked about healthcare being a part of the 4th Industrial Revolution, and Dr. Phoenix has beat the drum on this about brothers getting into nursing, and now you have wearable biosensor bracelets and stuff like that coming straight out of the continent. And where are your hashtags at now?
They don't want to talk about this. Okay, they're all wrapped up in division and self-division and hashtags, and you can't let foreigners do this, and they don't understand this, and all that other crap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you have Black people who look like you, who are leaps and bounds ahead of you in technology, and technology is leading the future. Nothing else matters. Okay, Caribbean or African, they look like you. We all came from the same continent, that being Africa. Some of us were dropped off in the Caribbean. Some of us were taken to Australia. Some were brought to America. We all came from the same place. Okay, so that ADOS hashtag stuff, stop it. It's garbage. It's crap. You are dividing yourself from people who look like you. Instead of finding reasons to not work together and separate yourselves, find reasons to work together. And if you can't find a reason to work together, this article shows you a golden reason why, amongst others that are consistently covered on the Black Brain Trust, for reasons why you have to, not should, you have to reach out to those who look like you on Africa, because they are leading the technological revolutionary change, and Black Americans are not.
Uh-oh.
You know why? You know why this article is important. Anyone's familiar with Merck? Understand it's one of the largest pharmaceutical biotech companies in the world.
Yep.
You know, they manufacture everything from medications to vaccines and everything in between. And again, this is not, you know, the reason why healthcare is so important is because of all the things that you can say that you may or may not encounter in your life, the one thing that is without certainty, you will have an encounter with the healthcare system in your life at some point. That is without certainty. I don't care how many Dr. Sebi books you read, how much you diet, you will have an encounter with the healthcare system at some point in your life. And unfortunately for a lot of Black folks, this kind of ties back into the previous article. You know, again, you know, we should be on the cusp of all these emerging industries and technologies, but yet we're not. You know, we're you know, the ironic part, because you mentioned nursing earlier, folks don't even realize that by 2025 you're gonna have nursing will lose about 1.2 million nurses, because that's about a third of the nursing workforce. There are about 4 million nurses out here. And so 1.2 million is about somewhere around a third. And again, these are prime opportunities, because again, a lot of folks just think of nursing like, yeah, I'm at the bedside, whatever. No, there are nurses everywhere. Nurses in tech, nurses in big pharma, nurses doing research, nurses doing genetics, everything. You can't find a place. You can go to Microsoft right now and look up their chief nursing officer who did a presentation earlier this year at South by Southwest about informatics. She's working with Microsoft at developing AI for EMRs.
Yep. Apple is actually getting into the healthcare game as well. They're building out their solutions right now, so they're getting into the IoT aspect of healthcare.
Yeah, all of these bio tracking technologies, you know, obviously they've been around for a while, but the reason they're becoming more mainstream, why? Because more and more people have mobile devices.
Correct.
More people are becoming, or at least attempting to become more active in their lives. Also, part of the problem is that people are becoming sicker. You know, again, this is one of the major issues within healthcare, is that we're dealing with patients who are at least on average 50 to 100% heavier than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Well, you
know,
know,
yeah, go ahead, brother.
No, I was just going to make a point that I think a lot of Black people Black men look at nursing as something effeminate. You know, that's something that only women do. You know, that is gender based, and it's not really something that men do. It's not masculine, and it's like there's so much death involved in nursing that you don't even realize. You know, this isn't about, you know, being a CNA. You know, certified nursing assistant. There's way beyond that. This is the industry has a lot more depth than you can actually imagine. You know, it's not about wiping someone's backside when they're sick or they're elderly. This is,
you know, in all honesty, you know, the reason why nursing is important, not just because there's currently a shortage, and the shortage is projected to get worse in the coming decade, but more or less because it's a great stepping stone into other fields within the industry. You know, into tech, into, you know, the big pharma, you know, into to just about everything. There is someone there that probably is a nurse. You know, I mean, even in government, you know, you think a lot of your public health policies you see at the state level and at the local level with health departments, people don't realize there are nurses that are writing those. You know, a lot of folks don't even understand that. You know, they think of nursing, you know, again, you know, I'm not trying to promote it or anything, but what I'm getting at is the reason why this is important, because there's an opportunity for brothers to get involved. There's a major opportunity. There's a major incentive to get involved. Because again, one of the major complaints Black folks have is how they never get the standard of care in the health system, how they never get treated properly, but yet we don't do enough to encourage the young people to go into these fields.
Let me address Gabe A.
Okay, I figured you was going to say that.
Yeah. He says, brother, this comment isn't meant to be disruptive, but we read so many articles about what others are doing. Are there any plans for the Black Brain Trust projects? Actionable rather than informational. So it's important that we've been asked this question several times before. It's important that people understand what the Black Brain Trust is for. The Black Brain Trust is a think tank. It's a collaboration of minds from different areas in social media space in terms of the manosphere that came together on this sort of agenda to deliver information dissemination to the likes of those who have the same similar interests, because we did not see this being done anywhere else. So we took it upon ourselves to actually do it. It was actually Lionel's idea to do it. So we've been asked this question several times before. Do we have any intentions on building, rockets and stuff like that? I mean, there's always possibilities for individuals to break off and do their own thing. But to think that there's going to be a Black Brain Trust research and development center in Silicon Valley or something like that, that's not going to happen. There will be no brick and mortar institutions. We do our own things individually, and then we come together on a weekly basis and actually, do some dissemination as well. So, and that's been, for the most part, I think that people are very satisfied with that. We look at other people because we have to look at what other people are doing to measure where we need to be, right? It doesn't make any sense sometimes to think that every single idea that we come up with, we should just jump on it right away and then not really fully examine the market for what it is from a broader perspective. I've been in the startup industry for a few years now, since 2015, and I can tell you the way startups are run, it's not like how some people think. It's not like Shark Tank. It's not like that at all. The tech industry is very much well thought out. 6 months of just experimenting with the idea. I was part of a startup. I won't mention here, but I was a part of a startup, and they asked me to come on. In terms of cybersecurity, and just looking at the way they operate, man, they went from paper, from the whiteboard for 6 months to 6 months later, putting writing code into production, and from writing code into production to collecting checks from Capital One and other venture capitalists for millions of dollars. First check was $250K, and then the next check after that was like $1 million. I saw this with my own eyes. And these are millennials cashing checks and then driving off in Lamborghinis. So what I'm saying here is, I think we have to look at the Black Brain Trust as a source of information, what it is, and then, behind the scenes, if you want to work on something, you can always email somebody if you got an idea, if you want to jump on board on a concept, that's fine. I talked about this in February that I met with some African civil engineers, nuclear scientists and stuff like that I met at an African tech meetup, and we exchanged contacts. And once they found out I was in cybersecurity, they was like, Mike, the continent needs guys like you. Go back and tell your guys at the Black Brain Trust, get their stuff together, because the continent wants to do business with more Black men, but Black men don't have themselves together. Well, based on the information that Dr. Phoenix has shared about, his mentorship experiences and some of the stuff that I shared, Paul's been to the continent multiple times. There's a lot of information gaps as well as skill set gaps that need to be addressed first. And if we don't start addressing these things first, you're not going to get any positive results, in my opinion. If any of you, go right ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
All right.
Let me add a little part to that, what Mike just said. We have to look at what other people are doing for a number of reasons. If you look at what other cultures are doing, you can see Like when Chinese first started coming to America to go to school, technology and building infrastructure. That's what they went to school for. If you look at Dr. Phoenix is saying Filipinos and people from the Caribbean, they come here, they go into nursing. If you look at what other people are doing, you'll see what the trends are. You'll see the kind of business that you'll see. If somebody want to open a store around the corner and you see everybody's got one, are you going to go into that business? It tells you, hey, this business is saturated. So you're looking at somebody else to determine where you're going to put your efforts. Trucking, if you see you're looking at other people and you see, well, man, people are talking about going into trucking because the lack of truckers. That's why you have to pay attention to other cultures. And these other cultures don't take these things lightly. When you see their children, they start their children out 9, 10 years old, teaching them, you know what, being a doctor is a good thing. Being a nurse is a good thing. Being an engineer is a good thing. You can work anywhere in the world in those fields. You can even go in your garage and create something. You can be working at Microsoft, and that in the evening when you come home from work, you're working in your garage on your own idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just
You have to look at other people. What other people are doing will give you a guide and where you should go, and not just because you love it. Well, I love art, so that's what I'm going to do. You can't live on art. 99% of artists can't live on art.
I would really like to add something really quick. The Council on Foreign Relations owns nothing. The Heritage Foundation owns nothing. The Cato Industry owns nothing. The Manhattan Institute owns nothing. Yet these are 4 of the most powerful think tanks on earth.
Very true.
I understand about the whole, not that this is directed towards one specific individual, but it is a mindset, the Messiah complex. You do not need a leader, but a think tank, as Mike says, comes together and they brainstorm ideas, and then they go off in their own separate directions and they facilitate and make things happen. If others orbit that think tank and they pick up the knowledge and information that is disseminated, then mission accomplished. I was off air and I detailed a few of the steps to Dr. Phoenix, how my partners and I built our real estate business. I can gladly do so, but there's not going to be a Black Brain Trust owned strip malls and mini malls and rental properties business. That's never going to happen. But I can show anyone how my partners and I did it. But so there are other areas of interest that I lack expertise in that I have learned much from. Okay, what Dr. Phoenix is in his profession and Mike's profession, I was absolutely clueless before I interacted with these brothers, and I continue to learn. So we all share ideas. That's what a think tank does. And again, from where I'm seeing, as Mike said, this is unique. I don't see any other think tanks in intellectual co-op. So basically, to borrow from a very old term, come here, you eat, you take the knowledge, then go forth, be fruitful, and intellectually multiply. I'm done.
One of the things that Paul didn't say is that from these think tanks that he's mentioning, if you go to and look at U.S. government policy, how U.S. operate around the world, how they deal with China, how they deal with Russia, all that comes out of these think tanks. All of that, every plan that the U.S. make, the people who plan go to these think tanks and they come up with ideas. They don't say, well, these think tanks are just, they're not
And they
making
don't like
anything.
each other.
Yep.
Yeah, the Hudson Institute as well. I mean, there's many of these think tanks that are just sitting around, coming up with new strategies. I forget what this other brother's name. Well, I shouldn't call him a brother, but
I mean, you
other
have like
guy's
the
name.
Trilateral Commission. I mean, you have all these folks.
So
No, I don't think that Gabe A meant to be malicious. I think he was just asking an honest question. But the question that
I'm
he's
here
asking,
right now.
No,
you
it
want
wasn't it wasn't an attack.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because I think that there's maybe a misconception, like you're saying about the what I posed. What was understood by the question that I posed, rather than, because it seems like there's responses that are more education as it concerns what a brain trust is, rather than so I guess I'm trying to understand, what did you understand, Mike, from my question?
I understood that you were asking the question about did we have any projects in the works, or any actionables in the works or in the future. So we've been asked that question before, and I think we kind of addressed it prior as well, when we were on different people's panels. They've asked us the same thing.
I wasn't on. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, when I'm answering it, I'm not just answering it for you. I'm answering it for the people in the chat too, because they may not be fully aware either, right? So they on the channel. So there are some projects that we have worked on, anti-gravity, complex design. There's many other people in the background. Lionel has worked, with different guys in the background. Young Grizzly, who's not here as frequently as he would like to be, he's working on things in the back. A lot of stuff that we don't talk about is because we signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So that's why, some certain things we are kind of, about.
Are there any public projects that?
No, I don't know if there's any public projects, but I've talked about what we've done in terms of what I've done in terms of sitting down with city council members and talking about legalization of cannabis and social equity programs. Some of the community farming engagements I've talked about that. I've shown pictures about that. Black Brain Trust working with other solidarity groups on the ground, doing some farming, community farming and stuff like that. So we discussed those public projects with a lot of things that have not actually 100% come to fruition in terms of paperwork and stuff like that. We usually won't discuss it.
I mean, is there any opportunity for public projects?
Yeah, there'll probably be some opportunity in the next year or so. Nothing this year, from as far as I can see. I mean, a lot of your founding members of the Black Brain Trust are not even here now because they're so busy working on other things. So, but public projects is probably stuff that we'll probably get into late next year. We did initially want to work on a Q satellite last year, around this time next year, around this time in 2019, and we really never got around to it because we had other events that came right after that kind of caused disruption. So that's where we are right now. So to answer your question, from a public project standpoint, nothing in 2019 will be taking place.
Oh, no worries.
Can I just add something really quickly to that? Because I completely understand Gabe's question, and my response is, not necessarily directed at his question per se, but more of just a general response, because I don't believe most Black people understand the function of a think tank. The purpose of a think tank is to push the particular ideas that a society should have forward. Their job is to disseminate information, remain ahead of whatever the emerging trends are. Again, and I can tell you a personal story. I have a good friend. He's a nurse, but he's Asian. He's Hmong, and one of the things he told me, him and I talked. and we were speaking about, you know, things that you wanted to do in the future, and, you know, it was kind of a toss up between going to medical school, going to nurse practitioner school, whatever the case may have been. And I say, because I was saying like, man, there's a lot of Hmong going into nursing, and I was saying like, yeah, because you guys are a relatively very small percentage of the population, but you know, there's so many of you all, you know, going into fields like nursing. And he was saying like, yeah, you know, they have a council that gets together and talk about what does their society need.
Yep.
And from there, they take that, and all these different leaders at these various local levels, they take that and say, okay, well, we're going to get these young folks, and this person's going to do this. You're going to be a nurse. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be a physician, whatever the case may be. And that is the purpose of a think tank.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it might just be a little bit of a different understanding, because think tanks that I've been involved with or heard of, they also have things where they're like writing and publishing information about these emerging topics. But at the same time, you know, a lot of times in the chat, it's like young brothers or brothers in general who are like, oh man, I'm so interested in that subject. Oh man, that's so great. And a lot of times think tanks are really focused around like policy and changes. They're usually like leaders, like political in a lot of political spheres. But I do see that a lot of times in the chat room, there's like individuals trying to get into the technology. How do they get started? Things as it concerns that. And I was just thinking things that are actionable might serve a very good purpose to the individuals who are listening in and tuning in, rather than, yeah, they can hear the articles, they can hear, yeah, automation is coming, hey, this and that, this is a good field to get into. Mm-hmm. But if they can actually get in there and get their hands on some things from individuals who have done it, I find that to be a bit more valuable, especially to individuals in the Black community.
Well, we covered several articles where subscribers to the Black Brain Trust have actually taken our information and have gone on to be successful with it. So, I mean,
no, I'm saying like projects that the Black Brain Trust does. I understand, like, yeah, people can take information and run with it, but yeah, I'm saying like, are there any particular actionable projects? Like, hey, we're leading this particular thing, and that if you guys want to jump on and contribute, hey, let's go ahead and do that.
We had the intentions on doing that this year, but you know, there was some other life-disrupting events that happened for some people on a part of the Black Brain Trust. So a lot of that stuff.
I'm not asking for like any reasons why.
I'm just making. It's not for you, brother. It's not for you.
Okay.
It's for the people that are listening. So the reason why we even read articles is because a lot of Black people don't read. They just don't read.
Actually, I was about to say the same thing. I was going to say the same thing.
They won't read it. They won't read it, man. It's unbelievable how Black people want, or Black Americans want information, but they don't want to read. Whether it's because of a literacy issue or it's just laziness, they just won't do it. And that's why BGS does the same thing. He has to read the articles. He has to read excerpts from them, because a lot of these brothers don't read. I mean, he just had a hangout Saturday, you know, kicking some yo-yo around because this guy thought he knew something. He never even read the literature.
That's a whole other thing, but sure.
and take into consideration, there's a hangout going right now that's been going for the last 13, 14 hours about what happened on the Rumble.
Well,
I mean, that's the sort of stuff that goes on in the.
About what happened on the what?
I don't even want to go into it, Paul, because it's so disgusting.
Go watch the brother Super Trez. That's all I'm gonna say. Go.
It's so disgusting and you know, vile. I don't even want to go into it, but that's the type of that's Black people for you. That's what they do, and these same people will sit up here with their, you know, with their
the culture of laziness. You got a bunch of Christians that don't even read their own Bible.
Or not even just that. These people will sit up here and claim to be Black first. They're Black first, but then you look at what their hangout is doing, and you're like, what is this, right? So that's why
my comments have no type of bearing or comparison to what's going on in other places at YouTube. It's just that it's something for young brothers and people to jump on and touch.
No,
brother, we're not even addressing your comment. We're not even addressing your comment. We're talking about.
Something different. Okay.
Yeah, we're just talking about the structure of the Black Brain Trust and why people come in here and why we do it the way we do it, because this is the way that people digest the information. If they hear us talking about it, they take the excerpts of what we're saying and then they run with it, because people learn differently. We've had articles posted, and that's why we have a docket, right? So that people can actually refer back to it. But we find there's a lot of Black people who just don't want to read, or they just don't read. And so we have to do a lot of the legwork for them. And maybe that's the only way that they can actually get to where they need to get to, if somebody holds their hand, and that's fine. I don't have a problem doing that. We had a lot of intentions on, having a website and actually writing these articles out. But then I started thinking, well, if you're not going to read the article, it makes no sense for me to write it.
I would agree with that. Again, I've done a lot of writing, like I said before, done a lot of research, wrote a lot of papers, wrote a number of papers. But again, this is one of the things, I think is really important. Just as a general comment, again, I don't think it's advantageous to even write articles with the current state of Black society and currently what we see in Black YouTube. I just don't think is advantageous, because I don't think if there's not a level of salaciousness and scandal involved, folks don't care. They're not going to read it. So yes, you have to spoon feed it to people. I mean, that's just kind of the long and short of it. You do have to spoon feed it to most Black folks. That's unfortunately that is the case. Yeah,
we might have to get some Gerber seats too and start putting them in the back seat of our daily drivers, man, and actually strap these guys in, man, with some of these people in there, man, because if they're not going to be able to move on their own, man, this is the only way they
we can't even get
a Black Brain Trust
to
beer
focus
girl,
enough.
Mike. That's all you need. A Black Brain Trust beer girl with some big boobies popped out and a platinum blonde, dirty, disgusting weave. That's all you need.
Oh, she has to be twerking too.
And some butt implants.
That too.
Here in Boston, man, I'm a part of a group called Cyber SN, and they are actually against that. So they've actually started an initiative of no booth babes, and they started this years ago.
Really?
And yeah, so you basically pushing policy to remove women, using women as props for products, man.
Yeah, right. That's never gonna happen.
But it's actually effective. It's actually happening in the tech industry. They've removed a lot of those women from those selling of tech products. So now you don't even see that anymore.
Oh yeah, Me Too is screwing a lot of stuff up.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, but I talked about the precision medicine initiative that's been pushed out at the federal level. But under that, the outgrowth of that is the All of Us program, which is this is at in every state. But this is a program of research where they're trying to get the biggest, they're trying to recruit the biggest group of Black people in general, but certainly they're highly targeting Black folks, for genetics research and such. And again, I was asked about this maybe about 4 or 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was contacted on LinkedIn by one of the guys who was helping to roll out the program here in my state. And they asked me to come in as a consultant, to talk about again chronic disease and some of these other issues. But what the point of what I'm getting at here is that this is how I didn't I know folks that are in real estate, but I didn't know a lot about real estate like that or and such like that until the brother Paul Bryan talked to me. Him and I talked offline. The brother Complex talked to me. Me and Complex talked offline for maybe about 3-4 hours one night. He told me about a lot of stuff he has going on. So again, we've had conversation offline, of course, and we talked about a number of things that we're all involved in and stuff like that. But the goal is to get people to understand that you have brothers out here that are doing this, but they're in various industries. But in that, how do we push to get more brothers involved with this? And again, Black folks just don't read. I'm sorry to tell you, don't read. We can't even get undergrads to concentrate long enough to get a college degree within 4 years and not 6 or 7 or 8. I know Black folks right now 8 years into an undergrad degree.
They had I think Newt Gingrich even talked about one woman being taking 5 years to do her associates.
Oh, man, I know folks right now that took like 6 years. I mean, you can get a bachelor's and a damn master's in that time.
Well,
So-
I went to the hospital, so I took the train because it's in Manhattan. I don't really like I don't like driving and paying for parking. So long story short, I'm on the subway and I have the most recent Game of Thrones book, the history of the Targaryen family.
Mm-hmm.
And black people are looking at me like I'm growing 5 heads because I have a book. And it's not about something black or freaking hair weaves or hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
No,
it's a
none of
book.
Zane books the girls used to read
You
when I was
open it, whatever works.
No, you keep going, Paul. Then I need to jump to this article.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay. Zang, man, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I distinctly remember when I was in high school, all the girls reading the ghetto smut trash of those Zane books. So,
Yeah, what's the other one? Eric Dickerson or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They
So
still
you
are.
know, I mean, again, there has to be some level of salaciousness and scandal and sex. The 3 S's. They absolutely sell in Black society.
No standards, man. Mike V has been beating that drum for a long time. Black people set very low standards, and then they change them. They love saying, "Oh, the goalpost is being moved on us." Yeah, but nobody moves the goalpost more than black people with your constantly shifting low standards. You know what, Mike? I'm sorry. Next article.
Yep. All right. Next one is from Bloomberg.com. Tesla batteries are keeping Zimbabwe's economy running. Zimbabweans are relying on Tesla Incorporated to help them pay their bills. Amid power outages as long as 18 hours a day, Econet Wireless Limited, Zimbabwe's biggest mobile phone operator, is turning to the Palo Alto, California-based automaker and storable energy company for batteries that can keep its base stations running. The Southern African country faces chronic shortages of physical cash, so almost all transactions are done digitally and many via mobile phones. Telecommunications have become the lifeblood of the economy, said Norman Moyo, the chief executive officer of Distributed Power Africa, which installs the batteries for Econet. If the telecom network is down in Zimbabwe, you can't do any transactions. The installation of 520 Powerwall batteries with 2 going into each base station is the largest telecommunications project in which Tesla has participated to date, Moya said. The Econet, having about 1,300 base stations in the country and 2 other mobile phone companies operating there, Distributed Power intends to install more batteries and could eventually roll the project out to other power-starved countries in Africa, such as Zambia, Lesotho, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, he said. Base stations in Zimbabwe often use diesel-fired generators as backup, but fuel is so scarce in the country. The power walls, which cost $6,500 each, will step in when solar panels aren't generating enough electricity because it's night or when heavily overcast. The lithium-ion batteries can power a station for as long as 10 hours, according to Econet. They are charged by the sun. Tesla is working with a number of telecommunication companies around the world and sees a combination of solar panels and battery storage as a good opportunity to expand its business in countries and areas where electricity supply is erratic or non-existent, a company spokesperson said. Econet's mobile money system, EcoCash, has 6.7 million active users in the country of 14 million people. It is used for everything from buying groceries to tipping waiters. I think, we talked about micro scale infrastructure projects, and this is kind of one of them. I would probably throw this in the medium infrastructure scale sort of project because it has a third party that's coming in to actually do the installation and the first party is actually the client, and then Tesla comes in and supplies the resources. So I've had this discussion with some members on the continent back in February, and we were talking about this very thing. And they want, these are the sort of projects that need to take place. So if you're trying to get into the fourth industrial revolution, this is one of the primary target markets of micro infrastructure, medium infrastructure, hit and run sort of plays that can actually provide continuity to some areas of the continent, and even in the Caribbean. Like right now, Hurricane is it Dorian? Is that how you pronounce it? Dorian? Anybody know?
Dorian.
Yeah.
I thought it got upgraded to a category 5. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, it's at 180 miles an hour right now. From the last I checked a few hours ago, and it's pounding the Bahamas. But this is the sort of infrastructure that's going to be needed, to keep an island like that from being lights out for a very long time. Because we saw what happened to Puerto Rico. The United States government kind of ignored the whole entire country and just let it rot for the most part. Money never got sent to it. So a lot of indigenous work is taking place. So go ahead.
Yeah, there was actually one of the Caribbean medical schools about 2-3 years ago was wiped out. Ross University School of Medicine. They were wiped out in their original the original island. I can't remember the original island that they were on, but they were wiped out by I can't remember the hurricane. My God, I was just thinking about it. But anyhow, they were wiped out, and they actually had to move to Barbados. So the new island that they're on now is in Barbados. But yeah, this is just part of the problem. Again, in the Caribbean, is that infrastructure is still not to the extent what you might see on the continent, but certainly infrastructure is certainly an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, I think you might know where the place is that they built. It's not far from Cape and Rivers. That's they just completed the building and all that.
Yeah, Barbados, although it's in the Caribbean, it's out of the eye of most of the hurricane paths. So it doesn't necessarily get pounded like the Bahamas does. And
yeah, it tends to be on the very outer perimeter of the hurricane, so they might just get like a tropical depression or something like that. They don't, that's part of the reason why Ross had moved their school from the oh my God, I can't remember the island that they were originally on to Barbados.
Grenada by any chance?
No. It wasn't Grenada. It's north. I can't remember. I think it's Antigua.
and Barbuda.
I think it's Antigua. But when the last hurricane came through, it just wiped out everything in Antigua.
Yeah. I can't remember the hurricane, but it was like 2-3 years ago because they had to move all of their students to the University of Tennessee to complete their courses for like a year, and then they had to go rebuild a whole new facility in Barbados and stuff like that. And they just started up their new class. I want to say last September or something like that. But yeah, again, as you were explaining, Mike, this is an area where obviously brothers can capitalize.
Yeah, we talked about
Mike.
Go ahead.
That idea with the batteries there, that's one of the things that I was looking into in West Africa, because like in Ghana, and well, not only Ghana, but Guinea and all those, you got villages that are isolated, and the villages, you might have like 4 or 5 villages that I don't know, have total of maybe 5,000, 6,000 people in each village. And if you can drop one of these, if you put a couple of these battery packs in a container, a 20-foot trailer, and then put solar panels and a wind generator,
turbine,
and during the day you're generating power, and at night you got the batteries back up, and you just provided power for about 3 or 4 of these villages. You can make a ton of money and do a social service at the same time.
Yep, it's what they call social enterprise.
Yep.
And that's some of the conversations that I had earlier this year about these sort of drop scale infrastructure projects where you can drop it inside of a village and actually have complete continuity. You don't have to rely on nuclear energy like some of these weirdos, man. They just think, oh, we'll just build up a nuclear facility and they'll call it a day. Well, what are you gonna do with all that nuclear waste? And look at the outcome. I mean, Africa is the continent is too fragile to put nuclear power plants on there and not think it's going to disrupt the ecosystem that's there. Like, you have lions walking around 10 foot tall and fucking all types of shit, massively in size, man. I mean, gorillas are pretty big as they are right now, man. I had this discussion with Nagone a few weeks ago, man. Here in Boston, man, a gorilla got out of its cage and was walking down the street, and this is outside of the zoo, and it bent one of the poles for the bus stop sign. And the point that I'm making here is that if you disrupt an environment like that with nuclear energy and dirty fuels and stuff like that, dirty energy, non-renewable energy, then what happens here is your whole demographics change. I don't think that any country can really afford that at this point. All right, let me get to the next article. All right, this one is from CoinTelegraph.com. First blockchain exclusive birth certificates are recorded in Brazil.
Sorry.
The first birth certificates to be recorded by exclusively using blockchain technology were issued in Brazil. As CoinTelegraph Brazil reports, on September 1st, Alvaro de Medeiros Mendonça is one of the first children in the country to have their birth certificate recorded only with blockchain technology, without the need of the registry office. The parents were reportedly invited by the hospital to participate in a project developed by the tech company Growth Tech in partnership with IBM. The father, Waldir Mendonça Jr., said that blockchain tech made the process of registering his newborn child much faster, taking less than 5 minutes. The registration was made through Growth Tech's Notary Ledgers platform, which provides virtual notary services. The firm's founder, Hugo Pierre, says that the startup sought a new solution to provide better efficiency in recording birth certificates. Carlos Ricciotto, IBM's blockchain leader in Latin America, explained that the child registration method has 3 stages. First is the live birth statement made by the hospital. Then the parents create a digital identity on the platform, after which the information is sent to the notary office, finalizing the certificate. Ricciotto said that the new platform will eliminate bureaucratic obstacles in the birth registration process and will be more efficient and transparent. For those of you who don't know, Lionel has a blockchain study group that he runs once a week. So if you all want to be a part of that study group, you should actually get in touch with Lionel and be a part of that, because this is the type of stuff that he's talking about in the study group. But yeah, blockchain is a part of the digital infrastructure of the 4th Industrial Revolution. So this
tons of jobs wiped out.
what are you saying?
Tons of jobs wiped out.
Well, I wouldn't say that the jobs are wiped out, but
it'll be a lot of downsizing.
Well, I think the process is sped up, right? So, I mean, paper birth certificates are always 50-50, man. You either lose it, or the hospital loses it, or it's it's not documented correctly. This sort of approach to it actually simplifies it. I don't think it necessarily takes away anybody's jobs, because realistically, the hospital was going to do it one way or the other.
Well, what I mean is like verifying somebody's identification. You know, you will have a department for that.
Oh, okay.
Right, but that just creates the opportunity for new jobs, because whenever you have tech that replaces analog jobs, the analog jobs disappear. Yes, but as those jobs get replaced by a different technology, so that opens up the opportunity for people to go into different fields.
Yep.
See, that's the thing that people don't look at. They see, oh, I'm out of a job now. Yes, you are, and you'll probably never do that job ever again in your life. But you have the opportunity to do something different in new emerging tech.
Yeah,
There is
I
the
get
other
that
side
point.
of that.
I get your point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it spells the end for certain sectors though.
Well,
But it does create new ones.
Well, the people who used to do the documentation will actually be working on, probably medical coding or some other job. They kind of just transition to something else. They usually don't, stay home and collect a check. A check with a pink slip saying, it was nice having you. That's not usually how it goes. But this is actually pretty interesting because if a person is born in Brazil and they fly to the United States or some other first world country, this makes it easy for them to transfer all their documentation. I believe Lionel had discussed an article before last week about high schools actually putting it, or high schools or colleges putting their diplomas on the blockchain and making it easy to verify. So you add all of this into into the discussion, you start to see that this sort of digital transformation is happening in real time and making it a lot easier for people to access their records. Because I can tell you right now, I got a birth certificate and this thing is trash. It's so old. I mean, obviously, but it's all taped up and bandaged up. I can't even get a copy of it because they don't make it anymore. So I have to actually figure out a way to keep it together for the time being.
Wait, Mike, so you're telling me that the city of Boston won't give you a new birth certificate? Because
the hospital I was born at no longer exists.
Right, but your birth is on record, because the hospital that I was born at, it no longer exists. So I had to go to the New York City Department of Records, and they issued me a new birth certificate.
Did you have to pay for it?
I don't recall. I want to say like maybe $15 or $18.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, what I'm thinking here is, man, I just don't want to do it, and then next thing you know, they try to deport me.
Were you born here or in Barbados?
No, I was born here.
Okay.
I don't want them to treat me like a DACA baby or some shit like that. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. I think Complex Design is trying to get on here. And if anybody else in the chat wants to get on, you're welcome to join as well. This will be the last article before we open it up.
But you know what? On things like this, I get like you, Paul. I feel like this kind of technology should have already been here. It's almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Gabe. Or was that Albert? I don't know which one that was.
That was me. Go.
Oh yeah, I didn't say anything.
Okay. You didn't have to raise your voice, Gabe. We can hear you.
Really? Oh, you go. Oh, okay.
Gabe's been acting hostile.
Hostile? What you mean?
Yeah. Gabe saw me in the hallway and then he bumped me and said, "You should watch where you're going." I'm like, man,
wow,
hard for a brother out here.
I'm just saying, maybe you should just, watch where you're going. No, just. I'm cool.
Mike, he stepped on your shoes, man, and I know you're not gonna take that.
Nah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to get japped up out here.
I don't even see.
I will protect you,
I don't
Mike.
even understand a lot of these references because I don't have any point of reference to. I don't even know. Japped
Oh,
up.
you,
I don't know what that
oh,
means.
you pretending not to know, but you know.
I ain't pretending. I don't know. I don't know what y'all.
Come on.
Anyway.
No, I'll fill you in. I'll fill you in over email.
I kind of don't even feel like I need to know because it seemed like some like YouTube stuff.
It's all
I heard
YouTube
something about a
politics.
Billy Goat one other day. I'm like, I don't know what this stuff is. But anyway,
Manosphere politics. Reigning woman, please go ahead.
I have no part in that.
Same here. So don't.
I was just saying I would protect you. That's all. Carry on.
Thanks.
Listen, Gabe, don't feel bad because honestly, 9 out of 10 things that Mike and the guys say about this YouTube Black Manosphere stuff, I have zero knowledge. I don't watch these dudes. I have no idea what's going on. None.
Yeah, I don't know. I rock with O'Shea. We do shows from time to time.
Whoa.
I don't know any type of politics.
No, Paul. He's good. He's good. He's saying that's just where he's at.
No, I'm saying he's in YouTube. He's like kind of big in the Black YouTube from what I understand. So all I say is I know him and I just don't know anything else about anything else.
Yeah, I don't know most of these. I don't really know these dudes neither. I don't even comment. I don't even watch the stuff.
Yeah, I don't.
You know, I think I watch some of the brother Super Triz stuff, and I like his stuff. I do know he had a response to some of that chicanery that went on, and I thought it was kind of interesting. But yeah, outside of that, I don't know much about it neither.
Yeah, we try not to frequent those areas either because most of us haven't had a tetanus shot in quite some time. So,
Hey, and the thing too is that like it's different strokes for different folks. Like I don't know, I rock with O'Shea. That's my guy. I know him offline. So, but we don't talk about all this drama stuff when we have conversations.
No, we're just using it as satire, man. We're just using it as satire. So.
Well, yeah, I know, but it doesn't seem to be. No, it seems to be more than that with a lot of people. People really are like feel some type of way about these individuals, but I don't know.
No, it's nothing like that, man. All right, complex design.
Really quickly.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to interject really quickly, Mike. If you would like a break from reading, I would not mind reading an article if you would like. Just let me know.
Thank you for that. That's so.
Well, you get my vote. I can listen to your voice all day.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get to this last article, and then we'll open it up for dialogue. This last one is from CoinTelegraph.com. Sierra Leone aims to finish national blockchain ID system in late 2019. The government of Sierra Leone plans to fully adopt a blockchain-enabled national identity system by the end of 2019. President of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, reportedly claimed that the new infrastructure will now allow financial institutions to verify identities and build credit histories. Tech publication NFCW reported on September 2nd. The new project, called the National Digital Identity Platform, is a collaboration between the United Nations and San Francisco-based nonprofit Kiva, a key technology partner of Sierra Leone since September 2018. According to the report, the NDIP is being deployed in two major stages. First involved identities being digitized, and the second, due to be finished by the end of the year, involves creating non-duplicating, non-reusable, and universally recognized national identification numbers. The president claimed that blockchain-enabled access to credit and financial services is expected to significantly improve the lives of citizens by making them more financially resilient. He said that new national ID system directly translates into citizens having improved access to affordable credit to invest in entrepreneurial endeavors. Bio emphasized the high security standards of the upcoming platform, stressing that data on every resident will be stored at the National Civil Registration Authority and protected with strict confidentiality in line with international guidelines and practices. Woohoo. He also noted the platform's ability to write new records for data modification as one of the major benefits of implementing blockchain tech. As previously reported by Cointelegraph, blockchain technology is set to become a multi-industry solution in Sierra Leone, where more than 85% of the population lack internet access and at least 75% are unbanked. So you can't open up a bank account unless you have a proper identification, and the government can't supply services to its citizens unless it has a accurate accounting for its population through identification. So this is where blockchain actually becomes the primary key driver for digital transformation. And Lionel has a blockchain study group that you all should actually join. Lionel is very, very well versed on blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, and can actually lecture most people on this type of stuff. So make sure you all check out Lionel's blockchain study group. Anybody else have anything you want to add to this?
My thing is, how would they connect you to the blockchain?
How?
Yeah, like let's say you're on the blockchain and they need to verify you. Like, how would they do that? You would have to have some kind of chip or card or something of that nature that connects you to the blockchain, right?
You have a digital wallet.
Okay, with like private keys.
Yep.
Okay.
Private and public keys.
So it's pretty much on the same basis as pretty much like a cryptocurrency or something.
Minus the currency itself. So
okay.
The infrastructure is there, but minus the currency itself. But the way they can tie in your credit score and your history and your identity and your state where you live in and your region and things of that nature, all of that happening in real time on a blockchain is very fast. If you had to do that without blockchain, it would be so cumbersome. It would take a lot more lines of code and a lot more ingenuity that still wouldn't be as feasible as a blockchain solution would be. Based on this article, it sounds like they've already figured this stuff out last year. So you have the continent has 1.2 million or 1.2 billion people on it. The problem with the continent is that they don't even have a proper accounting of who's Nigerian, who's Ghanaian and things of that nature. They don't have an accounting of who all these people are. I mean, other than phenotypical features, you really just don't have a proper accounting of all of these of your human capital moving across the sub-Saharan as well as in the northern part of the region. If you can tie all of these people into a blockchain solution, then what happens here is you basically have borderless countries. People can float about from state to state, from country to country, without actually having to check papers or anything like that, because they'll just pass through airport terminals and it'll be automatically updated through a blockchain platform.
Okay.
Right. You can do business cross borders with the African Union coming online and like you got the West African, East African. You can move from one country to the other, do business online. They can verify who you are. They know all your information is available. Say I'm a bank and you walk into my bank. If you are from Ghana and you walk into my bank from in Tanzania or South Africa, and I can pull up your information and verify who you are, and I can do business with you as an individual, rather than you not being able to do business with a bank away from home.
You actually wouldn't have to pull up anything. Facial recognition from cameras would actually pull that information up almost immediately. You go to an ATM and you go to log in. I think Chase is probably one of the first banks, or Bank of America. We covered an article some months ago, maybe about a year or so ago, where they were talking about removing the card, you know, and a debit or ATM card from use at the ATM machine, and just using the PIN number and facial recognition.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
I'm
they
talking about
already,
walking into the bank. You come into the bank. You got a project. You want to do this project in South Africa, and you walk into the bank, and I'm the manager, and you come and talk to me, and I say, good morning, so, you know, and you say, look, I want to do this better. So you explain what you want to do to me, and I go to my computer, and there you are. All your information is there. Your business, whatever, is all there that I can look at and make a decision right there and on the spot, instead of having to gather a lot of information and then 4, 5, 6 months later make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, the United States only has 300 million people, and it can barely manage its own system, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of case studies of identity management failures just with the United States. I mean, look how many social security scams are running around right now. People are getting checks and, you know, being written to them and intercepted, and all types of political and governmental chicanery happening because of an archaic system. This is the perfect opportunity for guys to really study up on blockchain and really put themselves in a position where they can actually be contributors to the digital transformation that's happening right now. You don't need a certification to be involved in blockchain. It's probably more relevant that you have a literacy of what blockchain is and actually be able to write some code in Python or Java. Java is actually one of the main drivers of blockchain too. And some platforms.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Yo, what's going on, Complex?
Oh, nothing much, man. Just getting in, man. Now that I start this new gig, man, I get in on the Hangouts late. I used to be able to get in at the beginning, so now I'm coming in the halfway of the tail end. But there was some. I was listening to you guys. You were touching on a previous article pertaining to blockchain. You know, and Ty C had mentioned that, you know, a lot of jobs are going to be erased. You know, but you got to understand, you know, when there's a job, you know, market that typically goes away in one area, it springs up again somewhere else. You see, so there's going to be people who are going to have to do the front-facing blockchain jobs. Okay, kind of in the similar vein of what they were doing, but now they're going to have to like either adapt to blockchain or learn something new in that realm, right? That kind of serves as that same purpose. And so this is where we talk about, you know, an acquisition of new skills or learning and understanding new technologies, because it's all going to be applicable in the same industries that those old jobs just replaced. So there's relevance with all of this. So it's like if you're coming into a new situation where a lot of jobs just got you know, axed through, you know, various forms of automation and streamlining and AI and stuff like that. And then on the other side of that are going to be the people who have, one, an understanding of that industry, and two, an understanding of the technology that just replaced a lot of the jobs. You know, so that's basically what Paul was saying, where the new jobs are going to come up. They always come up in the same venue, in that same arena. It's just in a different form.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry, just giving you guys some HR jargon and stuff. My analysis.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, because we talked about the first article on the docket was about Rwanda moving into micro-transportation transformation in terms of getting rid of all their gas-based motorcycles and moving into electric-based motorcycles and scooters. So you and I, and especially yourself, you've beat this drum since last year about micro-transportation, e-scooters and stuff like that. You were part of a startup. So, dude,
quiet as kept, man. Look, I'm trying to put a bid in for a city Noah and I, Anti-Gravity, we're trying to put in a bid for a city contract right now, man. Micro transport. You know, and so there's grant money up for grabs. So, damn right.
Yeah,
know,
I mean, go right ahead, Dr. Phoenix.
no, go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Then I'll go after you. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just going to point out that to Gabe's question, that this is the type of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that doesn't really get discussed openly until it's things are actually official.
One of the things that I think I talked about it maybe the other day or something, just briefly mentioned it, but I talked about even the work that I do with. I'm working on a grant right now with a brother who's one of my mentors. He's a physician, but he runs a federally qualified health center, one of these FQHCs, but he runs it. And him and I was working on we've been working on this pipe for about maybe about 5-6 months now, almost. And basically, this was a grant to try to create a pipeline program for Black folks into medical schools to try to address the fact that Black Americans, and specifically ADOS, are at record levels of non-enrollment and matriculation into medical schools. And these are pipeline programs that will help pay for MCAT preparation. If anyone knows anyone that's ever paid for MCAT, if you go to one of these big, you go to one of these major test preppers out here, you go pay a minimum of $2,000 for MCAT test prep. It can go all the way up to $20,000-$30,000 depending on how deep your pockets are. And and we're working on this specifically to address this stuff. And so one of the things that I did with him just last week was he did the presentation again, and so but we were recorded a video where I talked about the importance of having Black physicians. And so again, this is just some of the stuff that I do offline and stuff like that. But I think what you brothers do here is really just a lot of before I came along, obviously you brothers, you've been doing this for quite some time, but again, just sounding the alarm so folks at least know what the hell is going on out here. Black folks don't know what the hell's going on out here. They think they do.
No,
but
yeah,
people got their faces too far up their asses and in their iPhones looking at what's going on Instagram and Snapchat and whatever else these days, to even understand that you're being completely removed from the damn market.
I am definitely rubbing off on you.
Dr. Phoenix?
Dr. Phoenix does sound, he sounds a little more chippier than usual.
Dr. Phoenix?
Listen, hey, don't mind me. I am a bad influence. If you spend more time around me, you will be calling out Black BS left, front, and center. Be careful.
I beg to differ. I am pretty certain and confident that the B1 network is fully capable and fully aware and knowledgeable in what is happening right now and are ready to go future forward. Thank you.
Some of the comments I've heard come from that side have ranged from Black folks at 25 years old cannot make $50,000 a year, when I have repeatedly stated I've graduated with folks who were a few years younger than me, getting BSNs and getting all kinds of degrees, coming out getting jobs for 60, 70, 80. I think the highest one I've seen was damn near 100,000. Coming out of
Dr. Phoenix, there was literally somebody who took the advice, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, took the advice of something that we said on one of our hangouts, right? Went through some program, ended up, several.
Articles have been written about these people that have been subscribers to us, who have taken our advice and our mentorship and have gone on, from being dishwashers to being IT professionals.
This is not only in IT. I came out aviation. The job that I used to do, aviation, I was on the mechanical side. Mechanical and electronics, it was my field. I seen guys graduate from technical school or come out of the Air Force, got their license from the federal government, and start making $50,000 a year. At the company I used to work for, after 5 years, you're making $80,000. So here's a 22-year-old kid, 25-year-old kid. No, if he's not married, he's single. You know, these guys used to be driving $50,000 vehicles. So it's not only the medical field and the tech field, but there's other fields out there that you can actually do these things. And you don't need it. Some I know one guy. He had a MA. He was a researcher, and he was headed towards his PhD. He got out of that field and came into aviation because the money he was making there as a researcher, he was making more in the aviation field, the field that I was in.
You know, I know folks that, you know, had various degrees in social sciences, whatever, and they went into the medical field, and they're like doubling, tripling their income from their previous careers. And again, you know, part of thing here that, you know, that does need to be said is that is just really important to understand that, you know, you do have folks who never had experience in these fields, don't know about these fields, couldn't even read a peer-reviewed research article and even tell you anything about said field, but yet they tell people advice about stuff they have no clue about. You know, again, I've you know, since you guys have been inviting me onto your panel, there have been a few folks who reached out to me offline. I've talked to them offline, and you know, and they got a chance to talk to me and know me, and I've been able to give them some real guidance. And again, you know, part of what happens here, unfortunately, in Black society, I'm just gonna keep it real. You got a lot of folks that they intentionally lead Black folks astray. I'm just going to
say that again. Say it again.
They intentionally lead Black folks astray. There's something insidious about a person that will sit here and take a young person and practically give them no hope. Tell them you can't do nothing about the situation. I mean,
I think the two words are interchangeable.
There go another
Not much difference.
Another one. Why? Why?
What'd you say, Gabe?
I said, why? There go another one. You got a problem with them dudes, man. You got
man. No.
No problem.
No. We have to understand that we've been called boring, because we don't engage in a lot of the efforts. So how we conduct ourselves on these hangouts is through dry sarcasm. Many of the people who catch our jokes are usually subscribers of Seinfeld.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean.
The shade, really.
Oh, that's what we've been told. That's what we've been told. So if I say something, it might go over your head, but there's other people in the chat who are snickering, you know, behind the keyboard, like, "Yo, you was on point with that." So,
but I mean, realistically speaking, and you know, no offense, you know, I know Gabe, you know some of these cats. I don't know these cats, but I've heard some of the content, and I can only listen to about 5 minutes of it before I want to pull my hair out. Man, and let's just keep this real here. You know, it is mind-boggling. You have a number of brothers who are very well educated, have educated background, but they will sit here and engage in this manner of BS and chicanery. And then this becomes the general conversation in black YouTube. I mean, these conversations are reflections of what you see in real life.
Yeah. I wanted to just follow up on that, Dr. Phoenix. I mean, because look, I guess you can only kind of pass off these things as being like, you know, cultural norms, right? And then, you know, over time we see that, you know, having the discussion, as they like to say, having the discussion, right? They never talk about plan of action after said discussion, right? Course of action to take after said discussion. It never moves from talking to action, like to actual doing. And so I think I'm at a point now where it's kind of like, since we all know that this is the case, now, if you don't consciously sort of shift to a mode of action after discussion, then I'm going to automatically look at you as those who are basically just being dead weight, because there's really no action in you know, in what it is that you're espousing or what you're trying to do, right? You can complain about something, you see a problem, You know, typically one thinks of, you know, a solution. Like, let's say, for example, you know, you're carrying something in your house and you knock a hole in the wall, and you stare at the hole in the wall and you just get pissed off because there's a fucking hole in the wall. But you don't actually, instead of like fixing the hole in the wall, you know, which would be the active part, right? That's the action. Since you don't do that, you just stand there yelling at the damn hole in the wall because you're mad, right? No course of action to fix it, though. You know, so that
I think I might see it from a little bit of a different perspective, because I think that from a business perspective, or even just the YouTube game, right? A lot of those, the subject matter that a lot of, I guess what you guys say is just the words and everything, sure, right? It's not necessarily productive or anything, but it gets views, it gets streams, it gets revenue. Individuals, I don't think the focus or the point is to really solve any issues when they have these discussions. The focus and the point is them to continue their platform where individuals are viewing, right? Sure. It's not
Of course.
productive. It's
But
not.
where is the standard?
But I'm not. I don't personally. I'm not offended by what they say, because it's like that's just what they want to talk about. That's what they want to do. I look at more of looking at, hey, I see that that's the thing. It does bring some negative connotation to the Black community, sure. But how can I enlarge the things that I see that will be more productive to the conversation, rather than like, oh, they're doing that wrong. They're doing that wrong. I'm like, dang, what can we do?
It's not really a matter of if we feel they're doing it wrong, right? You do what you do.
Yeah.
I guess from our perspective, you know, we see that there's actually more productive things we could do with our time as Black men, right? You only have but so much time.
Absolutely.
To do something great in this life, in your life. Okay. So you see, so, I mean, like if you're 30, I wouldn't have the mindset of saying, well, you know what, when I get 50, I'm gonna start doing that something great, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know yet, but you know, right? And so in the meantime, what occupies your mind space is a lot of things that should have occupied your mind space maybe back like in your late teens and early 20s, right? So in my view, in your 30s, you think a little bit differently, right? Like you want to know what's going on with the markets, for example, because I'm assuming, you know, you've gotten to the point where you're like, you know what, I think I want to open up, you know, a little trading account. You know, I'm not going to put a whole bunch now, but I'm going to start dabbling, learn a little bit about this, and, you know, try to build a nest egg over time or something. I'm thinking that that's what like most dudes would be thinking about.
They're not,
right? As men.
Yeah,
Okay. And they're not, right? Point taken. So,
but look,
I just let me finish this thought. So, I mean, I guess for those of us who say, okay, look, there's actually a whole greater picture going on in the world. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to condense all of what we think fits into a 2.5 to 3 hour live stream, right? So we can just dump it all on you. Here's the links. And if you want further discussion, holler at us and we'll open up an open chat. We'll follow up on some stuff. But see, this is a consistent thing here. And see, on the other side of the coin, that's a consistent thing. And it's kind of like, okay, you know, I don't see what it is that there is to gain out of it. I guess that's just really what it is. And, you know, maybe the other members of the Brain Trust share this sentiment, but we just don't see any value in it.
I would agree with that.
The time spent trying to find something productive out of something that is generally non-productive, giving some sort of weight and validation or justification to something that is useless and non-productive, the time spent doing that, trying to find that needle in a haystack, can be spent working on something that actually is productive.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's,
you know what? It comes down to how one chooses to spend one's time. So personally, listen, I have nothing against those dudes. I know what they do. You know, all I said, like I told one individual, I'm not mad at you, but you are a hustler. I see your hustle. I'm not mad at you. I can't knock the hustle, but you are a hustler. And I can't justify that. I can't accept that. So I'm just gonna go my own way. You do your hustle, which is BS, while I'll be over here doing something actually productive. And I choose not to spend any of my time on non-productive things. But hey, to each his own.
I just want to make it. I
Good,
just want to
Mike.
make it. Yeah, I just want to make it clear that I've supported those platforms financially in the past.
This is true too. This is true.
I've given hundreds of dollars to those guys to support black male media because at the end of the day, I still support brothers, doing something major in terms of content production and stuff like that. But at some point, like Complex said, you have to start questioning, what's the purpose of this, right? I made my contributions in the past around the manosphere, and once we got the Black Brain Trust up and going, that was it for me. The same people who we've contributed to, don't necessarily contribute to us at all. So I think it's fair for us to actually, make satire out of some of the content creators
I mean,
and whatnot.
yeah.
Because we're not disrespecting them. We're not talking
Oh,
about
it's
their
not?
mothers. No, we're not talking about their mothers. We're not talking about their daughters or
No, just their platform that they spend hours and hours on. Come on.
No,
man.
we've made our contributions though, right? We've made our contributions financially to them, right?
Sure.
We've approached them diplomatically with commercial enterprise, solutions and things like that behind the scenes, and some of the members of the Black Brain Trust got mushed in the face and basically told go take a hike. So
I mean, but why does that even have to be in the context of the Black Brain Trust, right? Why does
this is before the Black Brain Trust was even established. This is
sure.
The Black Brain Trust was even established. So
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? I'm gonna tell you so. A lot of that stuff led me over into this corner of the room. You know what I'm saying? And it was entertaining for me, but then it got to the point where it just wasn't even funny no more. Like I'm hearing old dudes have ideology that send younger guys down like a pretty much a suicide.
Say that again. Say that again.
Again, that's exactly what I said earlier. Again, it's something very insidious to hear these older black males on YouTube to sit here and say stuff that will intentionally lead young black males astray. I think that's insidious. I think that is treason.
But you know what?
And that needs to be dealt with.
But sending them astray and sending them down a path of just like a suicide mission. Like I think a couple of hangouts ago, I even said I don't really rock with old heads like that. But and I just had to. Now I realize like all of them not like that. You know what I'm saying? But the ones that aren't, they not getting the shine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, and just like the brother Mike was just saying recently, I have financially supported these other brothers in their platforms. I've been some of their Patreon subscribers and stuff like that. I have supported these brothers.
I've supported Dr. Umar Johnson in person. Sat down with him, chopped up game. So
I never did nothing like that.
No, I'm saying we didn't just come into this on some funny stuff, right? We've been involved in social media and whatnot for grip. So and we put up bread for people.
I can tell you, I have personally given to the tune of upper 3 to 4 figures.
I mean, but what's my whole point is what's the effectiveness of taking jabs at them? Why can't it just be
separate? They take jabs at us. They take jabs at us all the time.
What does that have to do? Like, all right, like that. Come on, that's elementary school, man. Come on.
No, man, they take jabs at us. We know we're the half a brain trust. The educated lanes, dishwashers. We've been called a lot of things that.
I mean, when you go home and you turn off the computer, do you think that is you? Do you think about what they're talking about?
No, we never. We've never.
I don't think of anything. I know chicks who have said all types of crazy stuff about me. Right? I go home, I look at the bank account, I look at the projects I'm on. I see that the life that I'm living is a life that I desire to live, and I don't. And it's separate from the way that I conduct my life. And I don't know. I just hear a lot of the jabs all the time. I'm like, what?
Well, to that, I would say point taken. But you don't have projects that are going on that are related to your online, projects that you're doing, right? You see, so there is a bit of intellectual property protection that we like to exercise, and humor is the the weapon of choice in most extents. Now, we openly welcome debates. We openly call out. We say, hey, look, join the panel. Okay, you see. So what I'm saying here is that our mentality and our viewpoint on these things are very much also reflective of just how serious we are in the offline world. Okay, the two cross pollinate here. You see, so again, we could have a rumble, right? And I'm pretty sure our views would go up a whole shit ton if we let some chicanery go about on our channel. But see, that's not what we're going to do. So the views reflect the way we operate and the way we do things. And look, humor is one of our ways of basically entertaining, if you will, right? Because everybody wants to be entertained, right?
But you know how these dudes take humor, right?
Well, look.
How do they take the humor, Gabe?
Weren't you on some type of panel or something where like some dudes was coming at you? Something I don't even know what it was about, but it's like something that you said over here.
Yeah. I mean, cats are always coming at me, man. I'm used to that, man. I take that with a grain of salt. But what frustrates me is that
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, I'm back now. No, I was saying like it's something that was said over here as it concerns something that individuals do in other places of YouTube. And it was like this big, I don't know, uprising, like you an ADOS hater or something. And I'm like, why do these two things even correlate? Why do these two, like I thought that, I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It just sounds like perpetuation of drama within the same place that you don't want to perpetuate drama at.
So let me explain. They boast this hashtag, right? And I'm saying this to you, but for these people that listen to this that don't really understand what we're talking about, they boast about this hashtag, and they're all about this hashtag. And then when we cover these articles and we have conversations with different people from who don't fall into the criteria of the hashtag, those people who support that hashtag are so sensitive to any sort of critique or criticisms of the whatever their movement is or whatever it is they're trying to uphold, and so they come over here and they try to clap down on us, and it's like, you can have all the pushback and clap back at me all you want to, or at us all you want to. At the end of the day, you still haven't done anything. So I usually just kind of bitch slap some of these guys around, because I just find it to be entertaining that these guys are so big mad over the criticism of a hashtag, but when it actually comes down to doing the work, they're no show.
Yeah,
they're no show.
Yeah, I think it seems more of a personal thing that you have with the things that other individuals say, but it tends to kind of vine. It's like vines within a lot of the conversation that happens over here, because I don't get it, and I'm just like, why is this?
Because when the Black Brain Trust, before it got established, people were taking shots at us on different platforms before we even started the platform. So we didn't have the opportunity. We couldn't even get on their panels to respond to a lot of their commentary about us individually.
Why does their opinions matter? Why do these individuals' opinions matter?
Because we individually have our own brands, and then when we come together on the Black Brain Trust, we also have to uphold the Black Brain Trust branding as well. Or else what happens here is people keep taking shots at us on social media, and then people, the lies become true, right? Even Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. I mean, we're seeing this happen right now in the manosphere, right? You know, 13, 14-hour hangouts about a comment that a person made. You know, they can't let that go.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but that's what we. That's
Like,
what
why respond to crazy? Why let crazy be something
I think
your mind?
because I think part of the problem here, Gabe, is that what I think you need to understand, brother, is that the reason why, you know, they have to answer this is because, again, you know, the purpose of even being on YouTube, even talking about the things we talk, is because you get to reach the widest audience through this medium. And so again, so if you have
anybody says anything against you, then the way that you respond is by some type of
I don't
retaliate in some way. Like that's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I don't, you know, I could not imagine, you know, the brother Mike or any other brothers in the Black Brain Trust going on just doing some of the rah-rah stuff you see on some of these channels. I could never imagine these brothers.
No, I'm not saying that.
They would never do that, but again, you at some point you do have to answer the naysayers. You do.
Well, you do realize that there are channels that correlate to, say, other cultures, other like, you know, other racial groups that have the same type of forums. And there are some that do, you know, kind of what we do, and it's done for the same reasons. See, so this isn't something that's unique. This isn't anything that I would say is out of the character of the Brain Trust. No, because see, what we do is we enjoy healthy debate. And see, so if somebody's going to shoot shots, well, I mean, again, we openly invite them to come on and have a discussion with us. And you see, Gabe, the thing about it is that these discussions that would be had would be of some value because, see, the subject matter that we cover here has nothing to do with whether you're red pill or blue pill or black pill, for that example, or maybe even a fucking gel cap. And, you know, and whether you're select or non-select or any of that type of shit. Okay. You see, so if there's some shot that you are going to take, it's going to be because you don't believe in the viability of blockchain. We will be happy to have that discussion with you. Or maybe
that gel cap knowledge, Ulysses. I need that gel cap.
or maybe, you know, you have a problem with some of the tech-based articles that we cover and how we deep dive into the future application of it, the international usages of these types, all that type of shit. Do you have something to say about it? Come on, let's have a discussion. You see, I mean that's the thing. Just as much as other content creators can be, they can be, I don't want to say forceful, but they can be forward with their platform. Why the fuck can't we?
Forward isn't retaliatory. Like you give life to crap. Like if somebody's taking
no. What we do is what
jab. You're giving life to their comment.
Not at all. What we're actually doing here is because, see, we're not a closed loop system. We're actually an open platform. We call ourselves an intellectual co-op, which would mean that, okay, if you disagree with something, right, and our assumption is that, oh, well, there's information. So I guess that we haven't been covering. It hasn't been popping up in our news feeds or anything like that. We're missing the mark here or something. Please come onto the panel and educate us. Let's have a discussion about it. Now I'll tell you, that's being a few things. One, it's actually being mature about the discussion of the conversation. And I would say that highbrow humor is the highest form of humor, right? It's not that slip on the banana peel variety of humor, you know. So
highbrow humor. Call somebody a billy goat, like what's that?
Look. Here's the thing. It's a play. It's a play on a term that I'm not the one who called him a goat. So what I did was I made it more specific as the type of goat, a billy goat.
It's really highbrow.
It's a joke.
Can I ask a question, please?
But it's like in response to some type of something that they put out.
Come on, man.
Gabe,
Hey, I hear you.
What exactly? I apologize. What exactly, if I may inquire, because I'm just listening as a passive bystander. What exactly is your concern or your issue? Help me wrap my head around your mindset right now.
Oh no, it was, and this is mentioned a couple of times before. A lot of times, Mike makes kind of like jabs at, like, I guess, other channels and other individuals, and I guess it's in humor, but it seems to at times be a little bit deeper because it kind of perpetuates other channels, and a lot of times it goes over my head, and I would ask and inquire, like what's that about? Like what who's saying that, or who is this individual? And it's like, oh, offline type of thing. And it just sounds to be a lot of the stuff that isn't really necessary that happens in other parts of YouTube where dudes are beefing, saying this about this channel.
Okay, I got you.
No, it's tongue in cheek.
Of what yeah, sure.
I mean, no, but it's also, see, the thing is this, like, okay.
And I don't mean to make this the majority of the conversation. We can move on to something.
No. I mean, this is open.
No. I mean,
dialogue. It's open dialogue.
Sure.
Yeah, and what I would like to do is dispel some myths here, right? Because that's I mean, look, you know, this is sort of like a real time pushback to the quote unquote educated lame narrative, okay? Because again, I mean, look, shots can be lobbed at us, and from what you tell me, well, you know, look, it's nothing to be taken seriously. It's just entertainment. So I don't even know why you're even responding to it. And I say, I say, well, okay, you know, I take what they're doing as a response to something. You see, so if we're questioning the nature of a response to something, you may want to start with them, okay? Because
I'm not over it.
What I'm saying, what I'm saying is this: we have a platform where we're gonna uphold a certain standard. Now, if shots are gonna come because we know the nature of what we're dealing with, so shots are gonna come. Just understand, shots are gonna get fired back. Now, we'll do it quick, fast.
Complex and Mike is breaking up a lot. Complex and Mike is breaking up a lot.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna switch devices.
You can dial. You can also dial in too. So Gabe, when you engage in dialogue, do you not have any sort of tongue-in-cheek satire that you engage in, online or offline?
Yeah, I do.
Oh well, you're ratchet too, Gabe.
Come on, like what does that have to do with come on, what is that? Not even a viable.
Well, Gabe, you be twerking too, so it's not fair for you to criticize.
Listen, we can talk about something else. I mean, whatever you feel like doing, man. Gabe.
Like,
what is it about? Like, what is all this about? But hey, that's your basis. That's what you want to do. Sure, I don't have no problem.
Yeah, but you got to participate too, though. I mean,
not at all.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I don't have to participate in taking jabs at other channels because they've called me an educated lame, or said I'm boring, or what somebody say in the chat, half a brain trust. I don't care about none of that. I'm like, hey, how can this information get out to the individuals that need to be there, or they need to understand the information and be able to progress their life as a result? Whatever somebody says on the channel about whatever, I don't know.
You know, to be really frank,
that's my perspective.
You know, just to add something in, to be really frank, you know, I think because given what the brothers do over here at the Black Brain Trust, you know, again, you know, very different ideologies here. You know, you have an ideology that at least from my opinion, which, you know, I've listened to some of those cats on the other side, and again, I couldn't stomach it for long, which eventually led me to here, to the Black Brain Trust. So what happens is that you have these very differing ideologies, and at some point there is going to be a clash. You know, I wholesale believe that, you know, as it currently stands in Black society, I mean, what we're seeing now playing out, whether it's on YouTube or out in your daily life, is really just kind of sort of a battle for the very soul of Black society. You know, you have the degenerates on one hand, and then you have the progressive black folks on the other. And right now, the degeneracy seems to be winning.
They have control of the narrative, and that's something that we have been striving to do since we started this channel, is to take back control of the narrative, and put it back into the right hands. Because if we allow that sort of stuff to keep, to continue, man, the manosphere was never like this before. What you're seeing right now is new. This wasn't like this before. Certain people let certain other people come into the panels and the networks, for whatever reason. But back in the day, people used to show their faces. Shout out to brother Wacky Water O. He came from the first generation of the manosphere, and he used to show his face all the time.
The original old man.
Yeah, he's the original old man. And Soul and Black, I've known him for years, man. We used to be on the phone together before there was a hangouts and stuff like that. You didn't have all this type of stuff. You had differences in ideology in the manosphere, but not to the extent where people were getting punched in their face and guns pulled out on them and all that stuff. This is new. You have a lot of people who been given mic time that should never have been given mic time, and so we kind of take a step back and we look at these guys and like, listen to this guy, talk about space, and space doesn't exist, and it's a pie in the sky concept. Meanwhile, we just read an article about 8th graders putting satellites into space, and NASA is working with them. I mean, imagine these guys going around other black people spreading this misinformation about, space is not a viable market. Meanwhile, it's a multi-billion-dollar market right now.
I recently heard about a few weeks ago. I recently was listening to something on YouTube in the black YouTube sector. Folks were saying there is no such thing as proteins.
Wait, what? You said pro-keds?
No, protein.
No such thing as protein.
Protein.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What is there?
Wow.
I mean, this is the kind of, I don't know. This is the kind of bullcrap we got. We got folks out here talking about immaculate conception. Black women are magically asexual. They can impregnate themselves.
What the hell?
I mean, this is the kind of bullcrap we got out here disseminating, Gabe. I mean, again, and so you ain't got enough.
I let fools and jokers and
brother. I ask you. I'll ask you this right here.
I don't have any. I don't even.
I'm going to try that tonight. I'm going to try that tonight. I'll let you know how that works out.
Please report back your findings.
Listen, they'll always be in existence. They will always be in existence, and they'll keep talking. I don't think it's the response. I think that takes brain power and brain energy in order to refute.
Brother, ask your wife. Your wife is a nurse, brother. Ask her some of the stuff that folks tell her.
Oh yeah. What does she do? She puts something in that drip and they go right to sleep.
You know what? She's ICU. Ask her if she ever gets invited out to do talks or anything like that. Ask her some of the stuff, if she ever does that stuff. Ask her some of the stuff people will tell her. I'm telling you, this is not this stuff I heard online. This is stuff I heard told to my face. Yeah. I've had folks email me before that heard me speak on another brother's panel a few months back, that they were a PA and they said the same thing. This is not just, I think you're thinking that, man, this is just some benign, this is some naive talk. No, brother, this is what's being said in these spaces, man, is being said out on the streets.
Yep. So
I think that's that's essentially my point in all is that, yeah, there comes a time, brother, where this just goes from just being some talk on the internet to folks actually talking this trash out on the streets.
Well,
and you're seeing
on the internet
people
because
straight.
that's what they believe in the street.
I mean, what's the result? I mean, what is by going back and forth with individuals?
We're not going back and forth, brother.
I thought you responded to my my initial comment.
No, brother. I don't argue with people. No.
I thought that was the conversation on the table.
No, brother. I don't argue with
individuals saying mess, but I don't know. I just
Gabe,
let goofy be goofy.
Well, I think people like the satire that we bring, man. We're not going on other people's channels and harassing them, but I think if we take a small dig at somebody, it's the timing. The timing is so crucial for it to be effective.
You gotta. This is a fine art we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. Billy Goat is not a fine art. I'm sorry. Sorry. let's not. Let's. And I'm gonna keep bringing because
Hey, Mike.
But do what you like. I'm not telling anybody what to do. Y'all do what y'all do. I just had a question about why. I think it's been answered. And hey, listen, do what you do. I'm not mad at all.
May I interject a female perspective and a continual supporter of the Black Brain Trust perspective?
Sure.
I think that this is actually a healthy venting for the Black Brain Trust. They don't do this often, and this could probably be needed and be good, for a good recharge. So they're actually being respectful, with their remarks and in their venting, and so and it's definitely a far cry from some of the whining. Excuse me. Yeah, it's healthy venting.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Ty City? Ty City was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ty.
No, I just think, it's inevitable. It's going to be a clear break. It's going to be two groups. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's going to be two groups. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the Black Brain Trust is like if there was a group of people telling the Black community the internet is coming, the internet is coming. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Get your ducks in order. You should be trying to get in this field, this field, this field. And it's like, not this time. It's different this time.
Mm-hmm.
And what the outlook that I got from you guys is like invaluable. Like I said, I was trying to get money together because I wanted to open a diesel repair shop. But you know what I'm saying? I wasn't forward thinking to the fact that diesel's finna be gone. You know what I'm saying? It's like that kind of stuff just far exceeds, you know what I'm saying, whatever little petty arguments and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I just feel like it is what it is. I think the Black Brain Trust is unstoppable at this point.
You know why this is important, brother? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Complex.
No, I was just gonna say to Gabe. I mean, Gabe is from the mean streets of Detroit, man. I would have thought that he had a bit of the.
There you go. Come on, y'all. Get ready.
He's always.
I mean,
but you're just like a sister, man. You never trust a brother, man.
No. There go, y'all. There go.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait. Why did the sister have to get thrown under the bus this time?
You see how it's kind of how that.
Hey, man, do your thing, man. I ain't bothering nobody. I just had a question. It was I'm cool.
But I mean, there was a couple of brothers, and someone actually put up one of the brothers in the chat. But there was a couple of brothers. I listened to some of their stuff fairly regularly, and even they left because of just the dialogue that was happening in quote the so-called Black Manosphere. Again, I don't know most of these dudes. I don't frequent their channels, but I've heard them on some of the main channels within the Black Manosphere. And again, I can only listen to that stuff for so long before you start to get really agitated. But again, I think it does need to be said, no offense to Gabe, but brother, you kind of have relationships with some of these folks. So I think you're a little conflicted in that regard.
Man, that don't got nothing to do with it. That don't got nothing to do with it at all. Like,
I'm just saying, brother.
So I'm cool with somebody on the side of the people that y'all talk about. So I'm like trying to sit here and defend somebody.
No, I'm not saying that, brother. But what I am
saying, let's talk about it then.
Okay. What I'm saying that what I'm saying, brother, is that if you truly listen to some of the stuff that these folks have on their channels, man, do you honestly think it's progressive? Do you? I mean, again,
some of the stuff, yeah. Some of the stuff, yeah. Some of the stuff, nah. I actually just did a live.
And I've heard it. But
so I would say that what I'm putting there is no, and I listened to it, brother. I listened to that, and I thought it was great information. But again, that's one live in a sea. You didn't do that for even quite an hour. That was one live in a sea of how many
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours.
I'm not the YouTube filter, the YouTube dude to say what people need to put on their thing.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying there comes a point.
Some stuff is and some stuff isn't.
And
But my relationship with individuals on, I guess, quote unquote, the other side has nothing to do with my questioning of why take jabs on the individuals from the other side.
Look, look, man. I think it's important to keep in mind, man, that again, that these arguments, these arguments do spill out outside of YouTube. They do come out on the streets, as we've seen in various videos.
Well, and a lot of perceptions, right, that support a lot of non-progressive agendas come from their local environments and not having more of a global view of things. I've said this on multiple hangouts, dude. Your feed should have like a whole bunch of news bureaus, independent news bureaus, and the large ones too, all in your feed. So a lot of your YouTube content should have things that are telling you about what's going on in the world. And so when you know what's going on in the world, you see yourself having more of a wider space in terms of what it is that your role, what you're supposed to do in life to be productive. So if you're anti that, okay, then but then at the same time you talk about, well, what do we have to do to fix the community, and educating these young males and doing all this. Okay, well, in my view, I would think that every brother in the manosphere who has a son should mandate that their son subscribe to our channel. See, this is how myself, Mike, a few of us, this is how we think. You see, so in the grand scheme of things, us trying to make some humor, right, out of competing and opposing narratives, it's minuscule in relation to what it is that we actually discuss here. We take a joke. That's it. It's a little joke. We laugh about it and we move on to the next article. We don't make entire hangouts about this shit. And then response videos and response to response videos. And can you honestly say that we engage in that?
Yeah, I just asked why.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm trying to give our humor and our approach and our approach to our analysis to, again, competing and opposing narratives is but it's minute in contrast to what it is that we actually do here. So please, I would just say for anybody who's listening to us, allow us, okay, give us that little bit to extra, to show other sides of ourselves. Because Mike's caught a lot of shit for being too serious. Am I lying, Mike?
Yeah, that's the biggest criticism that people have of the channel. Somebody said that to me last month. Why are you so serious? It's not a game.
Throw your unk in the air is funny as shit, dog.
Yeah, Paul Bryant's our brother, man. That is our brother, man.
Again, and like I said, Gabe, brother, you're a great brother. I respect you. But I do, no offense, brother, but I do think that I understand what happens on the other side of that. But I do say, I don't knock what these folks do. I don't knock the hustle. It is what it is. But again, there is no real balance of real discussions about what's going on. I mean, you're out here, Gabe. You're in NASB. You know what's going on out here, brother. You know what's going on in engineering. I mean, these are real discussions that need to be had. We don't even talk about how Black folks can't even get into medical school, can't even get into these nursing schools, can't get into PA schools, some of the major industries out here that are going to be most affected by the changes that are regularly discussed on this channel.
I think I'm not, at the same time, yeah, those are true, but I'm not going to put the onus.
I'm not putting the onus on any one person. Let me be clear about that.
Well,
I'm not putting that. But I am saying from there's an outgrowth of various individuals and channels from this one central group or people, if you will.
Concentrated as Black folks, and let's not make the mistake that this isn't some sort of battle for the minds. It is.
No, it's not. It is really not. I think
What do
the
you think?
information
Do
here.
you think we're just
Wait,
talking to?
No, let me explain why. I say I don't think it's a battle of the minds between in different sides. I think that the
Well, I
information
said a battle for minds.
a battle for
Not we're going. It's for minds.
I don't. I think also.
But no.
It's
It's for minds because you have to understand what it is that we're actually doing here. Why do you think we do this? Why do you think we present the information as it is? It's for minds.
So let me tell you how it's really like what's happening. More people are tuning in over on the quote unquote other side in comparison to this side, right? People are not tuning in to the same level. They own this area of YouTube, right? They own it, right? Hundreds and thousands at times people tuning in versus a couple of hundred. Not saying that one is greater than the other. I think the information over here is so much more preferable to my taste and to a lot of brothers who are forward thinking's taste. But I don't think there is gonna in any time soon there's gonna be a big shift where people are like, oh, I'm not gonna tune in to the other side. So I think that's the current reality. And I just think that I don't see a battle. It's not on that side.
Well, it's not.
Wait. It's the numbers are the same as reality. Like that's what's going on in the actual community. Like what they call it, 2%. Like it is what it is, and
yeah,
YouTube just reflects that.
Yeah. Well. But let me respond to that though. Okay. See, the fact of the matter is that just as though you're talking about a one concentrated area of YouTube, right? That's been deemed black, okay? And then within that, there's just black manosphere. Okay, so that means that this is what I've been told. What we do is a part of this black manosphere. So see, there's information that we feel as though is very important to black men. And I guess if this is the area in which we have to espouse this information, this is what black men largely concentrate at, then we have to be just as forceful for views and participants in the chat and participants in the panel as everybody else who's espousing something that, and I don't know if you can argue against this one, but when we're putting out information that can literally enrich you, and for everyone else, I mean, I guess, I don't know, I'm not going to be too critical, so I'll say maybe to some extent. I don't know, I haven't encountered any discussions, but I mean, I don't understand why us being forceful about the message is somehow beneath us. I would think that given that what the information and how we compile it, the type of discussions that we have, a lot of what we put into this, I would say I value it to the point that I will actually enforce it aggressively. Because there's a lot of thought. We don't do this to take arrows and not pull arrows out of our quivers and fire back. That's not what we do this for. So, I mean, and so much to be said about non-select and select, this, that, and the third. But what I'm saying, where the rubber hits the fucking road, where it really matters, it's about global affairs. It's not about the hoods. Really, y'all made it about the hoods, but it really ain't, because the world's bigger than you goddamn. And so, what we're talking about transcends your hood. It can transcend your hood if you take it seriously. And so we think that the message is serious, and we take our espousement of it seriously. So again, I just say, look, man, if we inject a little humor here and there, forget us.
Real quick, who is this Richard gentleman? Richard Victor Dixon. Who is that? He
from
seems to have some.
He's from BAIO, one of our other network alliances. So
He seems to have a pretty negative view on, I guess, what's coming from me. Do you guys share some of these same sentiments, or?
No, no,
I'm trying to understand.
No. Let
keep
me.
in mind that Rich is a street cat, man, who turned tech nerd, man. So he see things from a different perspective than maybe
Oh,
some of us may have. So
I'm just
he,
trying to
he comes off a
understand.
little bit more aggressive than maybe you might be accustomed to.
You know what?
Trying to
Gabe,
understand
I'll
what
keep it
you're
100 with you, brother.
saying.
You know how I first heard about you, brother? I listened to you over at your friend channel, and this was made by earlier this year. And the first, and you, I think that video with you that I listened to was the second video that I had listened to from that channel. The first one had the brother MOT on it, and I really like what both of you brothers had to say. So again, that's what kind of drew me to that channel originally. And that person that runs that channel, they did talk about the Black Brain Trust, and again, that's how I end up ultimately, coming over to this space after kind of getting tired of listening to some of the other folks that he was allowing on that channel. So no, I don't personally think that of you. No, I'll put out there that now.
I'm just trying to,
That's never my opinion, brother. So
sure, yeah.
so no, if outside of this, brother, you and I agree on probably about 99% of things. So no.
I was just trying to see.
No, brother. Again, so I'll just speak that piece for myself.
Well, I know some people in the chat kind of taking pop shots at O'Shea, and that's not O'Shea is not the problem, and he's definitely not an enemy to the Black Brain Trust or an adversary. So I want to make it clear that O'Shea is good in our book. He's promoted the channel and he's had Lionel on. So he's not the issue. What a lot of people have been frustrated with in terms of the manosphere is they go to different people's channels and they're overwhelmed. Rainy Woman, can you please mute yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're overwhelmed with a lot of the chicanery, like Dr. Phoenix likes to call it, and they want better content. And when they come here, it only takes a few episodes of listening to us before they realize that they're never going back over there. I've had people email me and say, I love the way the channel is structured and the delivery of the content and the pace that is being delivered and the conversations and the interactions. They like it. And when they go to other people's channels, they see how unstructured it is, and then they immediately leave because structured versus unstructured is what they're responding to. And I think for a lot of the reason why we have so many male subscribers, even now we're starting to expand out into Europe. People want structure now. They want some form of order and organization. And if you look at most Black content and even offline, the way Black people operate, they don't like structure. They like things to be dysfunctional, disorderly, and they're always talking about organizing to fight this this invisible mayonnaise man. And it's like, how are you going to fight that if you can't even organize online? You can't even have a decent panel. They come up with sustainable solutions. Ain't no way in the world you're gonna fight that mythological mayonnaise man. I just find that to be hilarious, man.
And Mike, let me follow up on that, man. Because I want to give O'Shea a shout out because he actually spoke to this. And he said, look, I could do more, panel discussions and stuff on like business and all that type of stuff. He could do more than that. He's like, but that's not what you niggas want. Like, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put that. He was griping about this, and it's a very legitimate gripe. And you do, and I've actually kind of observed it. I remember there was a stretch for a minute where he really tried to like just do business oriented live streams and stuff like that. He had Erica Williams and a few other people, man. I think Brother RJ, a few other people that got like certifications and things. And
Yeah, the Hall of Game.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like when he does them, no one checks him. No one really keeps game on him, really. And
Yeah, I don't have a problem with O'Shea either, but it's just, one day I was listening to it, and I guess somebody on his panel just straight up said that Donald Trump wasn't the president. And it was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh,
But look, I mean,
I
that's the
swear to
thing.
God.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing. I mean, that's kind of what he was kind of getting at when I don't remember which video it was, some time ago. But what he was essentially getting at was like, this is what you niggas want, you right? Like that's kind of like to sort of sum it up. So it's not as if like if I could recognize this and kind of convey it in this manner, that would imply that there's no problem with O'Shea.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
It has to do with the sentiment that he expressed, because we're expressing the very same thing. So when I say it's a battle for minds, please understand when he said that, like he was just like, look, I try to do this, y'all don't want that. Y'all want this shit. But he was saying, he's basically saying the same thing.
To add to what Complex is saying, I would agree with that. I, personally, like I said, it was the brother. I listened to his Hall of Game. I heard both MOT and Gabe on his Hall of Game. Again, I personally don't have nothing against him. I'm really happy for the brother. I'm glad he's in medical school and all that stuff. Again, I think probably more the problem is that because he understands that, real constructive, progressive panel discussions aren't what the collective really wants. Again, he again, for the most part, he's forced to kind of get down into the trenches and get in the mud and get dirty with these folks. And that's essentially what happens here. And like I said, I have nothing personal against him. Again, he, certainly a shout out to him and to him, again, I would have never knew about the Black Brain Trust had I not heard him talk about it.
That's how I came over.
So again, very much a shout out to him, but I do understand that, why he does what he does. I guess my major problem is that now, because, I think there was a few things that happened at the time that I first started listening. That's when you had that ADOS movement started, and then you had all these Negroes start flooding online earlier this year. And so again, at that time, then you had you had all these folks flooding onto social media, flooding onto YouTube. And I think a lot of those folks eventually made their way over to where he was at. And that's essentially what you see permeates over there now, for the most part.
Hey, it's cool.
I just wish you had a dump button where when somebody say something stupid, like they just get dumped.
Oh, you mean in the chat?
No, like on the panel, like straight up. Somebody make a goofy point, just like don't even let them elaborate on it. Just hit the dump button.
Well, I mean, again, this is YouTube, and I mean, okay, maybe to kind of take this in a slightly different direction. I really truly appreciate what Gabe contributes to the Brain Trust, and I don't want him to feel as though is that we're really kind of dumping on him or anything like that. When in all actuality, we're really just trying to convey the fact that we're going to be just as much as aggressive intellectually as everyone else is with tomfoolery. So but with that being said, though, I've been hearing some things about what's going on with YouTube. And Mike, maybe you heard about this. The CEO of YouTube talked about, kind of like the direction in where it's going to go, where, they're largely starting to tilt the entire YouTube platform as a whole towards media that has more of an to quote the CEO, I think she said their authorities in information dissemination or something to that regard. You see, so a lot of the larger independent content creators, like people like, I think David Pakman, he did a video on this, talking about this specifically, and I think there was a couple other videos that I saw speaking to this too. They're talking about, well, they're going to largely move to try to just make those large mainstream media outlets be main content creators as it relates to news and information and stuff like that, all throughout YouTube. You see, so there's this specter of a new sort of rollout of an algorithm that's largely just going to be feeding you MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News.
You know, again, I do apologize to Gabe if it made it seem like, you know, if I did say, you know, or
No, it's all good. It's all
you know,
good.
no, because I don't want you to think that like, oh no, no, I think otherwise of you. No, brother, you know, I definitely appreciate everything I've heard
Absolutely.
come out your mouth. I've listened to all of your Hall of Game interviews you did with O'Shea, and I think they were right on point. So, you know, again, you know, I do apologize, you know, for saying that, I think you have conflicting issues, but you know, so I do say that I do put that out there. So.
No offense taken. No offense taken.
Well, brother. Mike. Mike needs to go. Oh, there he goes.
No, I mean, you guys can kind of switch it up now. I mean,
Oh, thought you meant to go get you a couple of Boston baked beans or something.
no, man. I got some peanuts in front of you, man. So, appetizer.
Hey, complex.
Yo,
Yo, I've been doing my research on autonomous vehicles and whatnot, and
okay.
I was watching this thing. It's a YouTube channel called Now You Know.
Mm-hmm.
You heard of that?
Now you know.
Yeah.
Probably I'd have to go check it out. I'm subscribed to so much shit that
Yo,
probably.
so this guy's been converting vehicles and making EVs for the last 40 years, right? And he got into a Tesla, and he said, "This was sold me." He said, "I could never, ever make a car like this." And he also said that everybody else is just so far behind Tesla that it's nothing that they can do about it. It's nothing that they can do about it.
I mean, look. Here's the thing, man. You know, behind. I'm gonna start. You know, from a lot of the discussion we have, we're gonna trickle it on down into industry. So, look, behind all of the componentry for electric vehicles is a country called China. Okay, that's just the reality of it. You know, so what China ultimately see these when you look at all these tariffs, we discussed these tariffs. This last round of tariffs was to take the fence, was to actually increase the price of what regular old consumer goods, right? Just your run of the mill stuff. Sorry, I got a neighbor with a loud motor.
Man,
in the pit crew.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with it, man. I think he's still talking. He doesn't realize that I had to mute him, man.
Anyways, the guy was saying that Tesla, through their motor technology and the battery technology and just the controls and electronics that they already have, that everybody else they're not going to be able to catch up, not even if they try. And the only thing that they can do is short the stock and try to get it to where and just smother the technology the best they can.
Hmm. Well, companies that are bigger than them, like VW and GM and stuff like that, it wouldn't take much for them to catch up. But I think the purpose of Tesla is to be a tech company rather than a car company. They don't have the capacity to build cars in the same way that other manufacturers that are dedicated to cars can. And because of that, their turnaround tends to be a lot slower and a lot more expensive. So because they can't streamline the production process in the same way that GM, Ford, and Chrysler can. The same thing with BMW and VW and whatnot, Mercedes. So with that being said, I'm saying Tesla is looking to license a lot of their technology as much as possible and as soon as possible, so that they can get out of making cars and get into something else.
Yo, I'm pretty much I'm sold on that. I'm sold. Like I feel like when that guy said that, and it wasn't he wasn't like defeated or nothing. He was excited. He was like, "This is something else." He was like, "I've built EV cars for the last 40 years. I converted vehicles to EV," and he said that nobody can make a car that good.
No, that's the thing, man. The Chinese do, and that's what they're trying to bring to these shores. They would take over the automotive market if Biden could release their cars and NIO could release their cars and Geely could release their cars. No, you would see the what's undergirding this trade war is pushing off the Chinese and their technology push, right? What's going on with Huawei? In order for these cars to operate at its full capacity, what do we need? 5G.
Hey, brothers, I have to take off for the evening. I have a very early morning tomorrow.
Well, that's what's up.
Nope, that's fine. Have a good night, bro.
All right,
All right,
peace.
man,
Dr.
everyone have a
Phoenix.
good night.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna close out at
Good
11
night,
o'clock.
Dr. Phoenix.
We're gonna close out at 11 o'clock. So.
Okay. I mean, but I'm just saying, man, you got to just look at who it is that would actually come in and really roll all of this out. And what you would quickly understand here is that, look, we charge the Chinese with stealing intellectual property. What, you don't think that they made some high quality shit with that intellectual property that they stole?
Yeah, that. But you know what he said that the only way to compete is to short the stock and just try to beat them out on the money side. Like he pretty much said the cat is out of the bag. Like there's no going back.
The problem with that line of thought here is that the future is not predicated upon gasoline engines leveraging 5G infrastructure. How do you leverage 5G infrastructure with a gasoline powered car any different than you do with the current LTE 4G?
No. That's what he was saying. That it's too late. That it's nothing that they could do about it.
Right.
And he said once more people start getting into these EVs and they start talking about it, that the oil industry is screwed.
To an extent, they would be. Oil is used for more than just gasoline. There's other factors where oil is used, and that's still going to be viable. But you know those oil companies also have diversified portfolios, so they've made investments into
battery technology
and stuff like that too, especially Shell and Exxon. So
and he also went into just like the numbers coming out of that oil industry, that he said that even if they just take the $10 billion, they can actually short Tesla stock and all the rest of the EV stocks with $10 billion all the time. It wouldn't even affect them, the bottom line. That's how much money they have.
Well, they have a lot of debt too. I think they have about 900 million in debt, if I remember correctly.
You know, this whole thing is interesting, man.
Well,
I went down the rabbit hole.
No, we've been clamoring for Apple to buy Tesla. I think it would be the right strategic purchase. It would be something that Apple could do that's like a drastic market shaker. And they used to do it every time they drop a new hardware. But, you know, again, outside of the Apple Watch, you know, the acquisition of Beats headphones, all they do is they keep, you know, keep releasing updates to iOS, macOS, and you know, whoa, the Bonson newsreader, whoa, look at them, they're great. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, they haven't done anything really like market shifting. And so I think that if they actually purchased an electric car company,
the thing about Apple is that's not traditionally their model, right? I mean, you know this, but for a lot of people who listen to this, they think because Apple has a lot of money that they're just going to go around buying up everything, and that's not their model. To be quite honest, the reason why they got all of this money is not just because of iPhone sales, but because they didn't pay any taxes. A lot
Yeah.
of taxes were stashed outside. Tax
They
money
parked it in Ireland.
was parked in Ireland in different places, so they didn't have to actually pay. If they had to pay the taxes, they wouldn't have the wealth that they have now. And if they had to manufacture a lot of their goods here in America, they wouldn't have all of the wealth that you have now. So there's a variety of reasons as to why Apple got to where they are right now financially. But there's also it's just one of those things like a couple of other companies. They ran into they hit the wall in terms of what they can do, what their capabilities were. I don't foresee Apple creating a actual self-driving car in this climate. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, if Apple was going to create a drone that was going to compete with Bell, the helicopter company, who made a drone with Uber, if I remember correctly, then that would make a lot of sense, right? Because that's a long-term game plan, right? You're talking the next one, 50 to 100 years.
Right.
Cars are not going to be on the road for that much longer.
They're not going to. Yeah, it's going to. I mean, once you get 5G autonomy, there's not going to be much else that you can do with it outside of improved road infrastructure, right? So roads that are able to wirelessly charge batteries as electric cars ride over them. They're testing this stuff out now with Formula E, where they have boost zones. So if you hit a turn on the outside and you go through the zone, you hit a button, then there's a zone that basically gives the car like a 3 kilowatt boost. Right. So they're testing this in the racing environment. Start doing infrastructure improvements, then I can see where we're improving, on the 5G connectivity. Unless, again, man, if 6G, 7G supports some type of shit where we're looking at a Tron type situation, I'm looking at kind of not necessarily hitting the peak, but 5G is where you're really going to truly see what an autonomous car can do, right? And then once we know that, then it's about who can get the first drones up. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I didn't even think about the wireless charging play. That'd be crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, China already has our roads built with wireless charging built into it.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. Watch Formula E. They got boost zones. You go through a zone, it gives you a 3 kilowatt boost for like 20 seconds. I think it is 10 or 20 seconds.
That'll be something. You go in and go grocery shopping, and your car taking a charge while you're shopping.
Oh, well, you mean wireless charging?
Yeah, like while you grocery shopping, whenever you leave or leave your car in a parking space, it'll just be charging.
I mean, you can do that. You can do it like that, but we're talking about on roads. So, like, let's just say you're on a 10-mile stretch of a highway. So they'll create a special lane, and so cars that have wireless charging, they call it in-motion wireless charging. I think that's the technical term for it. So they'll create a lane where there's like 10 miles where they're going to lay out this strip that it transfers energy to the car.
Right. I think Bosch has a patent in place for that. And I believe BMW also has a patent in place for it. They might be collaborating together. I know there was like a trilateral commission of like Bosch, Daimler, and BMW working together on wireless charging and parking facilities. Autonomous vehicles parking themselves. There's a video on YouTube that kind of shows that demonstrates the early stages of a Benz with autonomous driving capabilities, trying to park itself in the garage, going up the ramp and trying to parallel park itself. So they're already there. I think they're already there at that point. So to your point, Ty, I think this is a viable market that brothers really need to invest into. We talk about Udacity with their autonomous nano
degrees, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people have gone through that program and gotten big jobs and started startups just based off the nano degree itself. Wait,
what is it called?
Udacity.
I mean, I've posted. I have to try to dig it up. Let me dig it up and try and find it. But there's guys that have used Open Pilot and Arduino and a +1 cellular phone with Open Pilot loaded onto it to hack the driver assist mechanism on like a Honda, for example, and make it fully autonomous and self-learning.
Wow.
These are like 18-year-old kids that did this shit on YouTube. And just type that in. Self-driving car OS or Open Pilot. Google or put that in the YouTube search.
Yeah, man. See, I was looking. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted to make a diesel repair shop. I was like, man, that's not far enough.
Well,
Yeah.
it would be okay, but when we talk about these things, we're talking about getting ahead of the curve, being at the forefront of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Rather than playing catch up with it, right? So you can go get a grant from U.S. Department of Energy, and they would actually, especially because you're a minority, they would actually give you, whatever it is that they have available. I've seen numbers in the six figures for grant money to actually go out and build infrastructure in the urban area, say like Dallas, Fort Worth, or something like that, or or some other environment that does not have the infrastructure available. You would actually get a grant for that to go out and build it, but you got to have the know-how, right? So you're going to need some human capital and some human resources to go with this to actually make it work, and that's why we have these discussions, because a lot of guys don't realize that what the possibilities are until you actually have to go out there and do it, and then you realize you're kind of by yourself on it. You have to start with small-scale projects, though, like what we were talking about earlier with those microgrids that they're talking about dropping with these Tesla batteries, the Tesla power walls, on these cell phone sites. Even hearing about it now in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico lost a lot of electricity because they didn't have sustainable infrastructure. But now they're looking at this and they're saying, well, maybe we should be using power walls instead of relying on big grid.
And Mike, I was going to say, man, I mean, there's people who show you how to build power walls for they're like a tenth of the cost of a Tesla power wall system, but very comparable in what it's capable of if you use the right components. And I mean, they're showing you, like, I've seen like playlists 20 videos long from start to finish how to build a power wall. So brothers that have like electrical engineering degrees, electrical maintenance mechanic certifications. If you guys got, or you're just like a union electrician, things like foreman, something like that. Look, these are ideas on how to leverage this stuff for like future application. And again, this is why we have these type of discussions here, because those skills are they're not it's not as if they're not transferable into the fourth industrial revolution. We just got to understand where they're applicable. That's really the key here, and this is what these discussions. You see, these discussions aren't about giving you some doom and gloom and shit on why you should just throw in the towel on your life, right? Because a fucking robot's going to take the job. No, robots are powered by electricity, man. People have to work on this shit.
Yeah. You can also take these batteries out of these old Priuses and these Nissan Leafs for dirt cheap, and actually create and repurpose them if you can recalibrate them. I'm not sure if you can recalibrate lithium-ion batteries.
No, once they've gotten so many charge cycles on them, their maximum capacity reduces. Now Tesla, and I think this kind of speaks to Ty City's point when he was talking about something like the software and electronics that are involved. I mean, the BMS, the battery management system, is so sophisticated on a Tesla that they tested one Tesla out here in California that used to do a pretty strenuous commute, and the guy had 108,000 miles on it. And when they tested the battery only degraded 7%. So there's something to be said about people who can develop sophisticated battery management systems to maximize the capacity of a cell and its output, its charge intake. I mean, I'm saying, man, there's so many areas to deep dive into that it's just
All right. Thank you all for joining us, man. And please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. And we'll be back tomorrow with Open Chat 21. So until then,
Peace.
peace and shalom.